Yeah. Heart is racing, pole position, babe. Lingerie with laces, won't take long to take it there, shawty. You getting me high. Fill up the soul is amazing. I don't wanna come down, just wanna rock and roll with you, baby. If you love it at all, might as well be me. I'll free up sometime. Tingle, tingling spine. I'm down if you down. Got me praying you on time. Yeah, got me feeling like I'm fresh out. Can't keep my hands off you. It's shorty, got my main chick feeling left out. Can't keep my hands off you. Can't keep my hands off you. Emotions magic, can't keep my hands off you. Got little mama in a flex. I get reps now. Can't keep my hands off. Can't keep my hands off you. See your body, can't help thinking wrong. We don't date, it's complicated, yeah. It's so complicated. She just walked us, no emotions. Roller coasters, changed our approaches, cause they be falling in love with that thing, oh my.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah, it is Tuesday, so y'all know what time it is. It's Classic Conversations with JT and Low. That is James and Angelo. That's J Boogie and Low Down. That is me and him. What's happening, people? We are back. I was glad to be back in the studio. As I told you, I had a little bit of a scare last week. Had to check things out, make sure everything was cold, so I'm not hot. In other words, I'm negative and I'm not positive. So not this time, COVID. Not this time. So, yeah, here we go.
I get what you meant, RC. So keep watching.
So, yeah, people. If you're looking at my live, if y'all looking at me out there, if you're looking at Angelo on his live, you should be able to see the link where you can actually go and you can see this background and you can see the whole panel sitting up here. If you're looking at my live, I think you can see all three of us, but microphones is in your way. So, go ahead and go to urbanatlanta.com, subscribe to us. We need those subscriptions. Come on in. My producer right now is telling me to fill out the screen a little bit. Y'all look at y'all. You stay still. Good.
Right here.
All right.
I was watching this thing. This thing hurt my knee when I hit it, and I don't want to say no bad words on. Cause if I hit that thing on my knee, it ain't gonna be pretty.
Yeah.
You would.
Matter of fact, I think you are the only one that's never said a bad word up there, huh?
Yeah,
I think you are. That's right.
First time in the studio.
Bring your microphone closer to you.
Yeah, bring it a little closer to you. So, yeah, urbanatlanta.com, man. Y'all make sure y'all go there, subscribe. There's a whole lot of other content up there also. Subscribe. Say that 3 times real fast. I did.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I got stuck on a
Give us a telephone call, 404-500-1605.
Right.
As I've said before, man, I love people reaching out to me afterwards telling me that it was great content, it was a good show, but what we need for you to do is give us a call, talk to us. It's a conversation. It's hard to have a conversation if nobody talks back. So I need for y'all to call in, man. Don't get scared. If you don't want to say your name, you ain't got to. Just give us a telephone call, talk to us.
We had a lot of contact from last week's show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
People were blowing me up all week long about that show. I mean, brothers who just, just a little bit of everybody, man, just stuff that they learned, didn't know, question about the education system. I mean, that was a real good conversation.
And I tell people all the time, I am learning as I go in this thing, real talk. So, my man, what's happening down there, brother? You ready to talk? You ready?
Man.
All right. Well, right now, don't go too much in detail. We want to give it all away.
But listen, let me introduce this brother right here, right? So, this guy right here, man, I've known, man, better part of, 20 years now, I guess, based on, over 20 years, man. And when we started having this conversation about what we're going to talk about tonight, about Black and Blue and Breonna Taylor thing, and we started thinking about police officers, man, I said, you know what? I told JT, I said, I know I'm going to call. I said, he retired now, But I'm gonna tell you something. This guy is a police officer. What I mean to say it is, you know, and I never really tell this man this, but I've learned so much from this dude on the police department. We worked this undercover detail, man, for a while, and we had a ball. And it's crazy when you go to work and have fun.
Yeah.
But we literally were having fun at work, man. You know what I mean? We had an absolute ball out there, man. And we made, you know, so many cases. It's just we won't even get it. It's just so much we did. But I watched this cat work, bro. You know what I mean? I watched how he moved. I mean, we went through. There's not a neighborhood in the city of Atlanta he couldn't go in. And he went in there with mad confidence. You know what I'm saying? I done seen him shake up some heavy hitter like it wasn't nothing. You know, I mean, I'm just sitting back like, man, this dude crazy. I was sitting in the back like, man, I don't know what about to happen tonight, man. The way he talking to these folk. You know what I mean? But he gained so much. It was somebody that gave him respect. You know what I'm saying? So I want to shout out this dude right here, man. This is MJ Lewis, man. Michael Lewis, just recently retired from the police. But man, tell him a little about yourself, brother.
MJ Lewis did 30 years with Atlanta PD, Red Dog, narcotics, intelligence, gang task force, GBI task force, FBI major offenders, fugitive,
Wow.
CSU, zone watch commander. I retired as a lieutenant, supervising Red Dog, part of Red Dog, narcotics, FBI task force. About the that's about a little bit.
Just a little-
SWAT commander.
Hey.
And SWAT commander.
Hey, for y'all out there that's Chicago PD fans, see, intelligence is actually a unit. Because this man was part of one.
That's a real deal. Yeah, man. I mean, this brother's done it all, man. He's done it all, seen it all, been involved in a whole lot of good things for the city of Atlanta, man. And, you know, they probably couldn't even count your caseload, you know what I mean, that you brought in over the years. So, you know, I just knew we had to have somebody, man, to get deep into this conversation and give some backdrop on some of the things that, you know, the police officers can't do and the views and what have you. So what you got, Jay?
You know, I was trying to figure out how it would start it off, but I think we're going to start off, like I said, what I was talking about, black and blue. And it's not black and blue, it's black in blue in America today. Sitting at home, smoking cigars with the wife like I'm usually doing. And, you know, the new season for the fall television lineup, it started. So, of course, Law and Order, which always talks about the climate in America usually, or they'll try and get close to a certain case that's going on. You know, they actually went into the climate of what's happening in America today. The way they did it, it was like before COVID, but right when COVID was getting hot. But they actually, it was, you know, within all of the police shootings, the social, as they say, uprising that was going on. So I'm looking at it, and Ice-T's, his character, being a black guy, you could tell that he was dealing with a lot because of everything that was going on. And so the way he was moving around almost like he was walking on cotton, you know, trying to make sure that he did the right things, said the right things. He was thinking a lot before he said anything. And then they actually had his captain pull him to the side and basically told him to watch his back. He basically said, you know, you need to watch your back because right now, if anything goes wrong, because of everything that's going on, you might end up being to blame for it. They're going to blame you before they blame another officer that's not black. So it got me thinking. I hit him up. I'm like, yo, man, I said, I think that this will be a great topic because we've talked about everything that's going on, but we haven't actually talked about the black men and women that's in law enforcement that have to deal with the side-eyed looks, that have to deal with, you know, the comments and the judgments from their own people and everything. So I thought that would be something good. And I know that you retired and everything. When did you say recently?
Yeah, July 18th.
Okay, so you was right in the middle of it pretty much.
Right after the riots.
Okay.
Right after the riots, I was over part of the takedown team for Zone 1. So we basically did ground zero, CNN Center. I was on one of the arrestings.
Wow.
Charge arresting.
Wow. I saw that on
I'm
TV.
tired after that.
Yeah, I probably would have retired too, or I resigned, one of those. But yeah, so during that time, or let's say like right before that time, because you said you retired right after that, but before that time, and I guess you could speak for some of the guys. I'm sure you're still friends with a lot of guys on the force.
Yes.
How are they being treated, say from us, black people that's just regular civilians? How are they being treated? Are they being, are people, calling them sellouts? What's happening with that? Is anything like that going on?
Be honest with you, not at all. Atlanta's different. Atlanta, we're a chocolate city. In Atlanta, it's real forward moving. We have a Chief Shields, Chief Turner. If you go back, Chief Bell, and we've always had chiefs that were innovators.
Okay.
Chief Turner started a changeover where we were basically high tech and bringing in things that other departments didn't have. Chief Shields continued that. She was controlled the money over ASD when Chief Turner was in, and they worked hand in hand, so it was a smooth, seamless when she took over. And the current chief, I actually policed with him, he's good. And a lot of things that occur in other cities don't happen in Atlanta because we're more of a mixture, and there's so many black officers on the department because most cities, the people that police, the population that they police isn't represented in the police department. You might have a police department that's 85% white and a population that's 85% black. And that causes some of the friction. In Atlanta, you don't have that. We've always been forward. We were on the front end of body cams. You name our facial recognition systems, the camera systems in Atlanta. People flew in from all over the world to check out our camera system. We're number one in the world with that. And forward thinking, cameras are in cars. So a lot of things that was seamless for Atlanta. And we've always been held accountable. So, and the citizens of Atlanta are different. I mean, our hoods, so to speak, and this is a compliment to Atlanta, even our hoods, the people didn't take, I can talk cuss now, didn't take shit. You know what I'm saying? So they've always been a good representative of what black America is. In a lot of cities, I'm telling you, the people still had a shackle.
Hold on a second. Bring your mic closer. Somebody said they couldn't hear you.
So you don't really have that in Atlanta. Good example is when you go to Buckhead and you sit down or you go to Ruth Chris or CNN, you sit down, you're going to be sitting right down by, somebody from the hood, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And so it's not the fear factor that you have in other cities. In Atlanta, if you get treated wrong, typically you've done something to be treated wrong. So the profiling doesn't occur and things like that. Now, is there instances where it does happen? Yes. A couple years ago, Zone 2 also responded. Gentleman in the building, he got charged with murder, 25 years. He killed an unarmed black male coming down. He was actually breaking into cars. Officer shot him. He did 25 years. When officers do wrong in Atlanta, they're held accountable. They're held accountable from a supervisory level because there's so many blacks in supervision, and even the whites that are in supervision. Not that it's kumbaya, but
Right.
Atlanta's always had a lot of mechanisms in place that kept officers from bringing their personal views to the street. And then the ones that did, as you can attest to, we don't let that shit go. We don't allow a lot of things to happen that happen in other cities. So Atlanta's really not the best judge of it. Even during the unrest that occurred at CNN, anybody that's down there, that was actually the black people that were protesting, not the infected, but that's my term. But the brothers that were protesting, the sisters, the white people that came down there, were the same people you see involved in a lot of things around Atlanta. Okay. Atlanta's just not a city where people take shit. And I think the media plays into that. So what a lot of areas, things that you see just doesn't happen in Atlanta. Now, does wrong happen? Yes, of course it does, but it's dealt with in Atlanta swiftly. And that goes all the way back to Chief Bell days. That Chief Bell used to say, you may get your job back, but you're fired for now. A lot of stuff just didn't get played. We've always had, Mayor Maynard, Mayor Young, Skip Campbell. But we've always had strong mayors. Bev Bottoms is the same way. She met with the police chief right off the bat. So it's normally a unity putting the word out. And not saying brutality doesn't happen in Atlanta, but when it happens, it's dealt with.
So what do you say to the people who feel like you have situations, for example, the girl and the guy who was snatched out the car during the riots, where they feel like they were treated unjustly, and now they fired. I think they fired 2 of the people, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But during the unrest, it's them feeling semi-opposite of what you just said in terms of the treatment. I mean, what's your opinion on? I mean, how do you address the people who say, "Well, I've seen it too many times"?
Well, and what I say to that is just like anything. It's like that situation, and I'm a little bit biased because I know some of the officers involved and I know
Me
where
too.
their hearts are.
Sure.
But I think what happened, you got to look at, and this is where, without getting into too many details of the actual case because it hasn't came to court yet,
Right.
and I'm retired, but I still know the officers involved.
No doubt.
You're talking about a situation where all the facts don't come out. What happens a lot of times because of media and social media, a lot of gets out that wouldn't have gotten out in the past. And then when somebody sees what gets out, they don't come back and explain it in police terms or law terms. So a lot of times as African Americans, just the public in general, white and black, they react on what they see, but they're not privy to what the law is. Atlanta's been pretty transparent in that when we take action, we know the chief will come out or somebody will come out and explain what happened. But in that particular incident, the 2 parties involved had actually went around cones that were already in place. But what you have to look at, and this is one thing people got to realize too, police officers are a cross-section of society, and when you put a badge on, you're held to a higher standard, but we still are people. Right. And what happened earlier that night, a good friend of mine was hit while directing traffic, a motor officer, a mere hour before that happened.
Right.
And both
Bad
his legs, both Brewer, can I say his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brewer, good brother. He's healed up good, broke both his legs. Most people would still be in rehab. That joker right, walking around, talking. So, but he was struck by a vehicle. And so people were a little more hypersensitive about you not obeying commands. Now, does that justify anything when it's done wrong because of what happened? No, but you got to look at the totality of the situation. So they go around the roadblock and officer stops him, clearly tells him, hey, look, we're going to stop. He does the dash thinking that he's just going to drive off on the officer. Well, guess what? Traffic was blocked up ahead.
Right.
So when they got there, what you saw was officers running. Okay? Now let's talk about D.A. Howard. What happened with D.A. Howard was in an election. Somebody that won later basically worked for him, and D.A. Howard was grasping at straws. And this is what happens in a lot of situations in senses the infected amongst us as well as black people, that we hear what we hear, but it's not what the real reality is. And what happened was he overcharged. He overcharged, and I know everybody out there remembers Trayvon Martin.
Sure.
And Trayvon Martin, they overcharged. What was the result in that? You had somebody that would have been convicted on a manslaughter,
Right.
but you had a racist DA in Florida charge him with murder, malice murder. And malice murder, I don't want to give a class here, but malice murder requires a forethought, meaning you had to thought
Intent.
about it beforehand.
That's right.
And there had to be malice involved.
Correct.
We've
There
talked
wasn't
about
no
that a lot.
malice in Trayvon Martin.
Right.
It was a wannabe cop,
Right.
overreacting,
Overreacting.
approached a young black male,
Got
and
his
got his
butt
ass handed to him. Yeah, got his ass handed to him. And so what he did at that point was overreact. And in his overreacting, when he's getting his butt whooped, he did what anybody do. If he had a brick, if he had a stick, if he had a brick, Trayvon Martin would have knots on his head.
Right.
But he didn't have that. He had a handgun, thinking, I learned jujitsu, and he just got his ass whipped. Deployed a gun, and the sad thing is a young black male lost his life.
Right.
Everybody reacted to that. And and it's a fault of ours as a people, as African Americans. A lot of times we jump on the bandwagon. We don't look at reality and I'll be honest with you, I'm not gonna name the black leaders, but I fought every black leader at that time. Because instead of them stepping out and speaking to the people and speaking to the infected amongst us, they sit up there and just got with everybody. Oh no, charge him. Right. And you know what? They let that racist DA charge him with murder. Wrong charge. Well, what happens when you get charged with the wrong charge? When they strike the jury, meaning when they give instructions to the jury and what it constitutes that charge, that's not what happened. Andrew Zimmerman may be a piece of crap, but he didn't do malice murder.
Right.
So he walks and we tear up our own neighborhoods and riot and do everything infected amongst us. And then the black people jump back. And that's what hurts African Americans, because the black people amongst us give infected a pass and don't hold them to a standard. And then the leaders amongst us want to get elected so much, and let me clear something up to it. It's something I go through a lot. So we're only 15% of the population. Get that through your heads. Okay? 15% of the population.
Right.
So many of us think we're 35, 40%, but it's trapped in major media centers, and that's why. But the reality of it is we're not big enough. And the infected amongst us aren't educated, and nobody's trying to educate us. Yeah, so we got to count on our leaders, but we don't have real leaders.
Right.
And if they would have came out and said, oh, wait a minute, Mr. DA, why are you charging somebody with murder that should have been charged with manslaughter?
Right.
Andrew Zimmerman would be in jail right now if he was charged with manslaughter.
Right, exactly.
Facts.
Now, let's go back to the situation with the one college student, because one wasn't in college, the male wasn't in college. Let's just put it on out
Put
there.
it on out there, right?
But that shouldn't have anything to do with it.
Right.
But when they were pulled over, he was told to pull over. Something that had violent that just happened. He pulls forward. When he pulls forward, he tries to run away from the officer. It's right there, he can be placed under arrest. That's what people understand. At that point, he was told to arrest, pull over. He drives, gets stuck in traffic. When he goes up there, the officer tries to get him out again. That's when he closes the door, refuses, boom. Well, at that point, he's under arrest. The officer has the right to effect the arrest.
Right.
Okay? At that point, he has the right to seize his person. Now, what you have there is a lot of officers that are on edge. They've been called everything but a child of God all day. And does that justify? No. But I want to paint the picture. They run down there, somebody that's run away from a roadblock, officer's just been hit. They don't really know what's happened, because I was actually right there that night. I was at CNN. That happened right down from CNN. Okay, we had walked down, we were pushing the crowds back. That occurs, they run down. I'm thankful that I was on that side. I'll just say that. Because what happened at that point, they broke the window. Boom. The guy's not complying. He was in control of a motor vehicle. Technically, you can't tase per SOP when somebody's in charge of, in control of a motor vehicle. But because they wanted to bring the gentleman under control and they didn't want to cause any more, because he's in control of a car, which can also be a weapon. He's also ran away once. At that point, they deployed a taser. Tase the individual, take him into custody. The girl was not tased. What happened was, if I tase this gentleman over here, and Sykes here grabs a wire, he's riding that lightning too. So she wasn't tased, she rode the lightning. She touched it. Okay, and the rest of it is Paul Howard losing behind in an election, knowing he's getting ready to get his ass handed to him. He overcharges the officers.
Right.
You have a good friend of mine.
For public appearance sake.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, Saul's. You know Saul.
Absolutely.
Saul's is a teddy bear.
Absolutely.
And Saul's ran towards the car with a taser drawn, not his weapon, and was charged with aggravated assault. Now hold on to that thought. He charged him with aggravated assault. And the black people and the others and everybody stood up and cheered. But the reality of it is he deployed a taser, which is given to you in a lesser degree, less degree than deadly force. You use it when deadly force may not be justified to maintain compliance. That's why you don't see people getting beat with nightsticks now.
It's the taser instead.
Yeah, it's a taser. So now anybody can money on a quarterback, but you're looking at everything in totality.
Right.
So the two officers that have some questioning to do and have questions, I'm not going to go into detail, would be the officer that originally approached the driver and the officer to the first passenger. But everybody else that got charged is BS, is Paul Howard, trying to grandstand, trying to keep that black vote up. Look, I'm hanging them all.
Right.
But he did the same thing that racist prosecutor in Florida did. He overcharged. At the bare minimum, you got battery on those two officers, not ag assault and everything he said. Because it's a lesser degree of force, but it's something we can probably talk in greater detail to cover it under the color of law. They were effecting a lawful arrest because they went around the barricades. They informed him, in fact, he was under arrest. He chose to drive off. What does that allude? He was stopped by the traffic. Now, am I in no way saying a kid deserved to get his ass whooped? But did he get his ass whooped? There's a whole lot of pulling. The kid was in his seatbelt.
Right.
Officers riding on adrenaline, and you probably done that on the call or two. Kept on pulling on him, but the seatbelt was intact. That's why the kid didn't come out. They decided to deploy the taser. The girl touched the taser. She got tased. Boom, 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 boom. But at some point, you got to say you're responsible for your actions. Now, all I'm saying is they overcharged the officers, and some of them never should have got charged. And what that does, we can talk about later, who that hurts. It doesn't hurt these black people sitting up here.
Right.
It hurts the black people that are living among the infected.
Explain
We'll
that.
talk about that later.
Okay. Now, you said something which gets me back to the black and blue. When you said that he was charged with assault. Now, assaults, right? That's what you said.
Aggravated assault.
Aggravated assault. Okay.
For just pointing the taser at the vehicle.
And that officer was a black officer?
Yes.
Okay. And you said black people cheered. Some people cheered about that. Now, this is what I say about being black and blue. These black folks actually thought that he shouldn't have done something because he was black, that he shouldn't have drawn anything. And of course, I'm being opinionated here right now, but most likely they felt, oh man, that was a brother. He didn't have to pull that on that. He didn't have to pull his taser. He didn't have to run up there with his taser, or he didn't have to run up there with his gun. Like you said, some of the infected, some of the uneducated, they're going to think something like that. So does that bother, that type of pressure right there, just from being judged because you're black, thinking that they shouldn't do something because they're black? Is that a pressure that you guys feel? You know, thinking that, oh man, he ain't have to do that. That's a brother. He ain't have to go at that brother the same way. He ain't have to go at the brother that way. He ain't have to grab that brother and put his arm behind his back. They say stuff like that sometimes because the officer that does it is black, which is wrong. Because if I'm a firm believer, if you broke the law, guess what? You're going to get arrested. You're going to get grabbed. You're going to get your arm put behind your back. I don't care if you're blue, green, gray, whatever. But there's a lot of people out there that feel that because the officer is black, he should ask him kindly and quietly, hey, man, listen, we're going to take you in today. Can you kindly put your hand behind your back and let me handcuff you? Do you guys feel that type of pressure now? Probably didn't before all of this stuff started getting publicized and everything with the phone cameras and everything, but now that all of this is out, do you feel the pressure of making sure that reasonable force is used? That you don't, I mean, you probably didn't go overboard, but you
talking about towards other black people? Yeah,
towards other black people. Because if I'm a police officer and I grab Angelo and put his arm behind his back, which you're supposed to do, and I do it in a way, you know, some black people will say, man, he ain't have to slam his arm back there like that so hard, man. He a brother. He should have just, do you guys feel the pressure sometimes of making sure that the right amount of force is used in your actions?
I'll answer this two ways. I'll answer there's a lieutenant, with the Atlanta Police Department has been trained, and our officers chose to use that force as necessary to effect the arrest. I'll answer it as an officer. I'm going home to my wife and kids. Now I'll answer it as a black man, and I'll just be real with you. Do you own a gun?
Yeah.
Do you own a gun?
Of course.
Why did you buy a gun?
Protection.
From who?
Others.
Others, people like who?
Anybody that
Right
come
here in
against me.
Atlanta. I'm not talking about anywhere else. In Atlanta, why did you buy that gun?
Any that come against me, I see where you're going though. It's against black people, probably.
Exactly. So that's the part as a people that causes a problem. We have black people that try to justify every action of the infected amongst us. And the only people that are being harmed from that, because what your question was, what happened since all that unrest and how it affects.
Right.
It doesn't affect you because how much did your house cost you? And where did your son go to school? Well, we don't need to get in that. We don't need to get in that. Okay? And how about you there, sir? And how much is, no, I don't think that, I don't think that affects you too. But the infected live amongst black people. Unless you're a racist and think that everybody poor is infected. The very people that are being harmed in our communities are the people that can't help themselves. And so what's happened is Black Lives Matter allowed their message to get hijacked by anarchist white people, which is a terrorist organization. We'll talk about that later if you want to go into that. But their message was hijacked. And what they said was, hands up. And it caused every mayor that's got a black population to protect the infected and not the black people. And what ended up happening, when they said hands up, I'm off the department now, you can look at the arrest stats. You can look at what's happened in Baltimore and every major blacks with a sizable black population. They said hands up, also said hands off. Now, you probably say, well, that's good, that's good. No, it's not. Because you're going back to your enclave. You're going back to your gated community. I'm going back to my farm, and I won't tell the county, but I'm going back to my farm. And the only people that's affected are the poor people that are left to live in Southwest Atlanta, Zone 1, areas where the predators amongst us and infected live. Because now, when the mayor and the DA overcharge police officers for doing their job, and you got states like Virginia that took away qualified immunity, you're asking somebody to put their livelihood, their house, like someone looks like a crap table. I wonder what the moonlight's for. But we're playing craps on this table. Now, I don't tell you we rolling for whatever you got on the table. I'm saying we rolling for the house you own.
Right.
Better yet, we rolling for this club. Are you going to let me throw them dice?
Absolutely not.
Exactly. Are you going to let me throw them dice? Hell,
No
you
doubt.
won't let me throw them dice for this bottle right here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Look at the bottle we drinking on. Are they drinking on that in Southwest Atlanta?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Well, you know.
Okay, you see my point?
Yeah, nah.
So
that's a
they
great
made
deal.
a bet with people that have to live in those areas' asses. Because it's not affecting the vast majority. Anybody that's police will tell you, you can go to any zone in Atlanta, any area, and it holds true because I've been on federal task force dealing with fugitives. I've dealt with fugitives from all over America, and out of America, that come in. And perps, if you ask any beat officer, any zone commander, you can think back to when you were policing. If you could take 10 people and erase them from the area where you police, crime would probably drop 50 to 60%. It's a misconception that black people are violent, that black people are criminals. No, there's some amongst us that need to go. Right. And I was alluding to that earlier. Sir, you know why you bought a gun. And you know why you bought a gun. Are you worried about a racist white person doing a drive-by and killing you? Are you worried about a racist white person robbing you? Are you worried about that? Truthfully, no, truthfully.
Very interesting. Yeah, you're right. You're right
See,
about that.
that's
yeah.
what
yeah.
we need to identify as
Interesting.
people.
Yeah.
And that's the black side of me that hurts because I work with my people. I'm not like not saying you, but well, no, I can say you. You take your ass back to that white neighborhood with them $1 million houses, and you're making your money from this club, and I'm retired, and we're leaving those areas. But the very people that need that police protection don't have it now because you've got police officers, not that they don't want to police, because the vast majority of the people that come into police are coming to police for the right reason.
That's a heck of a view right there.
And so we throw the baby out with the wash. So, well, we got them, man. We got them cops. And then when you go back to your house and you get in the car you get in, and the liquor we're drinking, and the very people that have to live in those communities now are living amongst animals, and they're not being protected. Look at the crime stats. Look at the violent crime that's occurring. Look at the violent crime that's been occurring for the last 4 years. Well, not 4 years, last 20 years in Chicago under Obama, Clinton, Bush, Trump, of course. And it's going to occur under Biden.
Right.
Because nobody cares about those people.
Right.
We say we do.
Right.
We jump on the bandwagon every time there's police
Something
misconduct.
happens. Yeah.
But the reality of it is nobody cares about the everyday. And police reform needs to be, I'm the first one to say it, because after you get outside Atlanta, it gets pretty Mayberry. Because I worked with a lot of different sheriff's departments. You have your professional ones in our police departments, Gwinnett, Cobb, DeKalb, Henry, Sandy Springs. You have a professional in Metro Atlanta. You have racist cops, some of them, but you got a lot that aren't. The vast majority aren't. But it's exacerbated because any death is bad.
So real quick, because another point that, and we've had this dialogue several times on the show, the conversation about, because I know a lot of people, some of the ones who are watching, I know some of the comments they've made about police officers, and when those bad things do happen, first thing they say is, well, the good ones are just as bad because they don't tell about the bad stuff, as if you're there on every time somebody does something bad. I mean, just speak on that briefly in terms of, the conception, or if I say the misconception, that thin blue line stuff that, we just somebody beating up on black folks, but you just overlook it because we're protecting each other.
Now, I can't speak for all of America.
Okay.
But I'll speak for Atlanta. Bullshit. That's a single malt talking. And I normally have to hold my tongue when I do press conferences and stuff, but now I'm going to be real.
Right.
It just doesn't happen, not to the level that people think. And this goes back to conspiracy theories. Mm-hmm. But if you go back to the first time Trump was elected, they were still playing photographs from the riots from Hands Up. Mm-hmm. Months later, look at what they allowed to happen and could have put down easily, all through America, right before elections. Thank God Trump wasn't elected. How close was he to getting elected? Right. 70 million votes?
Too close, sure.
Yeah, so I mean, you got to look at it. Things occur, things have happened, but in Atlanta, yes, there's misconduct. But a lot of times the misconduct you see isn't for the reasons you think. And I'll say this, every single time you see police force given a litmus test. And that litmus test should be, where did the filming start?
Right.
Now, we always get upset and want to start a riot and talk shit and act a fool as a black man and as black people over 5 seconds of a 20-minute altercation.
That's correct.
And so a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times the force is justified when you look at the totality of circumstances. I think I fault black leaders for not educating us as a people more. Church, I mean, you should have, I would think something that could come out of this is to have groups of individuals, either inviting them to churches, community groups, police officers. And you have town hall meetings with the police, and we explain law in layman terms to African Americans. And it's just not African Americans. It goes over in poor white areas, trailer parks, anywhere where you got poor people, it's going to occur.
Right.
Because that's what a crime is.
Right.
And if you educate people to their rights can't be abused. And when you see what officers do, a lot of times what you see as unnecessary or unjustified, you haven't seen what took place beforehand. How much did we use surveillance when we worked together? Yeah. Informants.
Right. Yeah.
Sending people in there,
Sure.
and different people that had good informants. And I used to dress down and walk through and walk in there and you know the things we used to do.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of times what you see is a whole lot of police work that went down before the action ever occurred. Now, does that mean every single time is justified? Oh, of course not.
Well, I think what you're bringing out is the human aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know, if, like you was talking about earlier with the tasing, you know, because of everything that had happened, you know, the human aspect of it is for people to be on guard if you see somebody running through a roadblock or doing something like that. And I think sometimes that's what we, as a people, sometimes pull out of it. We actually expect for, and it's not only with police officers, but we expect for people to be robots sometimes, to the point to where, like I said, they're not human anymore. You know what I'm saying? You could say that with professional athletes when they do certain things. First thing you say is, "Oh man, that dude dumb as hell." But we don't know what thing led them to do whatever it is. But it does, like you said, it doesn't justify what they did. But there was something that led him, her, to do what they did.
Well, yeah, and this is one thing we always got to look at. Every police shooting that's occurred in the last 5 years, I won't go too deep, but 5 years, has one common denominator.
What's that?
An illegal act occurred prior to the shooting. I mean, no, I'm being real. From a traffic stop, now does that justify the force? Like in Minnesota, that one shooting? No, there's no way to justify that. But if you look at a lot of these other shootings and look at the actual facts, the ballistic evidence, and everything that comes into play, a lot of these shootings on paper are justified. Now, on paper, justifying something in the morals or put a litmus test using common sense may not occur. But the Supreme Court decided with the color of the law that when a police officer's actions take place, he's judged by reasonableness. And what reasonableness is, when you take another officer given those same set of circumstances, what would they do? That's what reasonableness is. And so the color of the law and reasonableness, that decides how officers act and what they're judged by. And that's something, if we educate African Americans more, it's going to save a lot of black lives. Because a lot of shit, you see all these videos now that everybody's cutting up on the officer, trying to provoke him and get something happen. Right. We don't realize a lot of times it's like, I can take an action because of your action. Because if you take any Georgia ticket and you look down, what does it say, copy or jail?
Right.
And a lot of times what we do as African Americans, we write a check with our mouth, but our ass gonna have to cash at some point. And when you go there, and a lot of that, we gotta go deep, go back to, you know, taking the mail out of the household back in the 60s with, you know, welfare and things of that nature, red line and all that comes into play.
Sure.
It all comes into play. So it's like everybody tries to make an incident, but don't look what caused it. And see, we got, as a people, have to look at ourselves. Because the reality, why you buy guns is young black males. I'm not worried about some white boy flipping out with a AR-15 and going down my street and start shooting. I don't carry a gun until I come into the city of Atlanta. And no, my area is mixed, but the black people out there aren't. They're not doing the things that the infected among us do. And so that's what we need to work on as a people, the educational system that you talked about. That's why I chimed in when y'all had that. I think that was great. But what we have to look at is reform in the legal system and reform in law enforcement. And the things we need to do, you have African Americans not being realistic. Because if you do the reforms and you're sitting down and you're sitting at the table and black business leaders are sitting at the table, they're going to be like, oh, hell no. But when you have people that are uninformed, that think everything is racist, no, it's not racist because the law is a law. The law hasn't changed. A little bit there and a little bit there. West Coast a little more liberal. East Coast isn't when it comes to federal enforcement. But laws are pretty much the same throughout the United States. But if you look at any city with a sizable population of African Americans or states, the vast majority of people incarcerated are African Americans. And there's some famous basketball players and other people that invest in the commercialized penal system. And a lot of African Americans don't realize that we're number two minority in America now. In reality, we're the number 3 minority. Because when you put Asians and Indians together and people of Indian descent, they typically vote very conservative because they're a circular community and they have their own ideas about things. And so they're pretty conservative. So what does that leave? Us. We're going to be a non-factor. But instead of worrying about things that really affect us, we get bogged down in things that really don't matter.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, we're going to need you here for another show.
Well, you keep on bringing this.
You got some pretty good stuff. I want to go over these questions, man. I actually reached out to a couple of officers that I know. They didn't want to come in or call in because they didn't want.
Yeah, because they're still employed with law enforcement.
Yeah, still employed. The 3 questions that I asked were, do you feel any pressure during today's social climate? The second one I asked was, have you been treated differently by black people within the last 6 months or so? Then I also asked, are officers allowed to speak amongst themselves about the recent police shootings? And if so, do they? One officer told me, said he doesn't feel pressure doing his job. However, he said he feels like every decision that he makes is under a microscope, and especially by black people. What would you say to that?
I call BS on that. Because the reality of it, black people don't matter in America.
But to him, black people matter.
No.
We're not talking about America. I'm talking about your person.
It doesn't.
I'm talking about to him.
It doesn't. Because I hate that narrative that we allow the infected to portray on black people.
Okay.
The first help call.
Explain to everybody, though, because everybody ain't cops. They don't know law enforcement terms. Explain to everybody what the infected is.
Well,
you done said it a couple
I
times,
came up with.
And I guarantee you they don't know what it is.
That's his term.
That's my term. That's not law enforcement. No, don't put that on law enforcement.
All right.
Because I can't have that term. I can't have that term as law enforcement officer. But what I call the infected are the people amongst us that pray, that don't catch a bus to Buckhead, that don't ride out to where Sykes here live, but they continue to pray among their own people. That's the people I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. The infected. The people that 3%, that prey upon their own people. The infected among us. I don't like the N-word. I think the N-word should be taken out of our vocabulary completely. But the infected. And so, to answer those questions, what officers fear is that now you have chiefs, and that's why Chief Shields was asked to step down. Because I'm not going to say she was in cahoots at first, but I don't think she knew what D.A. Howard was going to do.
That's what I said from the beginning.
And she basically backed it, and she sold out those officers because, no, she didn't, but she didn't allow it. As soon as she saw it, one thing about Chief Shields, she's a good person. She had a good heart. And Chief Turner was the same way. and they're good people. And what Paul Howard did was wrong, because it's just like if you hire somebody to do their job and they do it, and then you don't back them when they do it. Public opinion shouldn't factor into that, and public opinion did. You had officers that were sitting there, not even the ones that weren't fired, but they were dismissed. How much you pay that police officer that works for you a night?
You know, which site, but $35, $40 an hour, right about
Okay, in Atlanta they make 50 and 55 now.
Yeah.
So those officers weren't allowed to work the side jobs; just got their regular check.
Right.
Now you should say, "Well, that's not guaranteed." Yeah, it is guaranteed, because if you do your job and do what you're supposed to do, you can work it. So officers lost thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
That maybe to get ahead, they put their kids in private school. Or paying for
change for sure.
or let their kid go to the best school, the school they wanted to go to, instead of school they could afford. Because he knows I'll bust my ass and work those extra jobs to pay for my kids' education. I got a friend whose kids in Morehouse was suspended off that bullshit because D.A. Howard's punk ass didn't get reelected. I can say that now. Yes.
And I agree.
Yeah, I haven't been a DA. I haven't been a Howard fan since the OJ.
Man, he's a buster,
time.
man. You got to call
yeah, because he overcharged.
Overcharged then, too.
Overcharged, and that's what happened because
Not OJ. I'm talking about OJ.
Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis.
Yeah, Ray Lewis. And
overcharged
Ray Lewis,
then, too.
We wouldn't even know who Ray Lewis was if they would have charged him correctly.
Yeah.
So I'm a Baltimore.
I get back into the questions. I get back into the questions, but we got a call on the line. Caller, go ahead and talk to us. If you don't want to say your name, you don't have to. But if you want to, please do.
Well, I think the initial question you asked was, do you feel the pressure? And that's a good question, because as a black man that's raising black boys to be black men, you always want to go out and treat people as you would treat your own. And yes, you do. I'm a contradict lieutenant right there. Officers do feel the pressure from their own and get criticized from their own, because they believe that they should, and like you said earlier, cut them a break because they're black, go the extra mile for them because they're black, when all those things are, hey man, like the lieutenant said, I want to go home and see my family. I want to go home and see my kids, my wife. I want to do all those things. And it is true that officers feel as if they make a mistake, and I say mistake, not a poor judgment and using excessive force, but if they make a mistake, they will be held accountable to a standard that is, let's just say, unfair. Lieutenant said earlier that officers are people, and you said it earlier, officers are people, and they sometimes make mistakes. We are all human. And when someone makes a mistake, let's deal with it as such, a mistake. Let's retrain that individual, make sure that individual doesn't do it again, and let's move forward to that. I don't think they should be sacrificial lambs.
Let me ask you this quick question on your on that statement. Do you feel, and I'm just curious now, as an addition to the question, do you feel black officers feel the pressure, but what about the white counterparts? Do you feel like they feel any pressure, or are they still going about it as if, we the police?
They do feel pressure, but it's a different kind of pressure. They feel the pressure of, they do not want to be labeled the white racist cop that use excessive force. They do feel that. They do not want to be labeled the white guy that just goes around and beats on black people. For doing their job, let's just be honest, for doing their job. Sometimes the incident requires using force. Now, I don't know how you can use force and make it look pretty. It's impossible.
This is never pretty.
And see, this is why I wanted to have this show, because, like you said, we're putting pressure on. We're putting undue pressure on black police officers as black people.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this, a small caveat. We're not putting pressure on black police officers, because in America, black people don't matter.
No,
The pressure, it's after the fact. It's
my
after
man,
the fact.
let me tell you
the
something.
pressure that's put on us, no.
I love what you're saying, I love what you're doing, but I'm not going to sit up here and say black people don't matter in America. I can't say that.
For the way our government is, and I'll tell you
what.
You're
talking about on the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, the grand scheme of things.
On the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, the grand scheme
Okay.
of things. Because what happens is the pressure that's put on officers is by the department, by the heads, by the mayor. When those officers, the rug was pulled from under those officers, that wasn't the community, because the black community are not criminals. They're not criminals. And see, that's the misconception. It's the I shouldn't get loud. It's the white media that makes the statement you made. And that's why it's not against you. But black people like police.
Huh?
Black people like police. No, when you go to the churches, when you go to the community meetings, when I walk the streets of Atlanta, I'm talking about Atlanta. I'm not talking about the whole nation. I'm talking about Atlanta. You know, the PAL, the day-to-day, your day-to-day interactions with people, your day-to-day interactions. Black people that live in those areas like the police. Now, does some police overreact? Of course they do. But what happens when you see what's on the media and the people that are chiming in, the people that are out, some people are like after 11 o'clock in Southwest Atlanta,
they don't like Atlanta. They don't like police.
Exactly. The people that are out there don't like the police.
Well, I get what you're saying.
It's become popular. You know, it's just like sagging and showing your ass. Now, because Puffy did it, guaranteed next week if Puffy, Jay-Z, and name 3 or 4 popular athletes start wearing regular stuff like we used to back in the days, if you got them to dress that way, boom, overnight, all of a sudden sagging's not cool.
They've started wearing clothes like us. These dudes, some of them just lost cause.
But a lot of it is, but a lot of that, what I'm saying is, we're on the bandwagon. It's like when you tell people, well, police brutality, and you go to them, well, yeah, I hate police, but well, why do you hate police? Try that next time. Next time a brother tells you he hates police, if it's an honest brother, you know what he's going to say? He's going to recant something that he heard third party, fourth party, or fifth party.
That's true. That's facts. But but again, it goes back into it. You're right. They may like the police. They may dislike the police for the wrong reason, but they still dislike the police.
The vast majority don't.
I get you. I get you on that. But you're sitting. But you just said.
What's the word you use?
The vast majority.
No.
The infected.
The infected don't like the police.
The infected. Right. Okay.
I tell you what, I love a Saturday in Zone 1. You know why I like a Saturday in Zone 1? Because I hit everybody's barbecue.
Right.
And I've never been denied a plate.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying? That's about me up on bacon. Well,
and I should say,
Howell.
when I see you doing it the same way. We're not speaking blanket. When I say that, when I say I know people that don't like the police, I'm not speaking blanket. Just like you're saying people like the police, you're not speaking blanket. Yeah. But I just feel that there are police out there that are feeling the pressures from like this man said, he feels the pressure of not doing one small thing wrong. He feels the pressure of not saying the wrong thing. He feels the pressure of even asking somebody a question because in his experience, he may feel something wrong about this guy. And before, I remember when that wasn't a problem, I remember in New York how they started with the stop and frisk. It's almost gotten like that around everywhere to where the officers are now feeling, damn, should I stop this guy? No, and you probably should.
Yeah, but not to well, I'm stopping you, but it's not the community. What's happening is the blanket has been pulled from under. It's just like if you tell your waitress or your doorman to charge a certain amount, but you stay your tail up at the front, and every time somebody comes, oh, that's my boy. Or no, charge him this, or charge him this. You've undermined it. And what's happening throughout America, law enforcement has been undermined by the very people it's supposed to back them because they jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
They jumped on the bandwagon. The bandwagon was black people hate police. They want to paint this picture of us all being savages and violent and whatever, or they hate the police. That's what Trump tried to get reelected on. Defund the police. Black people don't want to defund the police. They don't. Infecteds do. And you got people that grew up like our sons, or our daughters, grew up with every advantage that think they're helping their black brother. They know they're helping the others, the infected. They're not helping black people.
So I'm with you. We're kind of saying the same thing because
the pressure from the
if this guy's
administration
feeling the pressure from doing the wrong thing, like I said, he's feeling the
black
pressure.
people don't give that pressure.
He's feeling the pressure because black people may say something or report it, and then, like you said, the administration is not going to back him.
There you go.
So it's the same thing.
Always OPS complaints because, as sites can attest to, if you police, what do you get?
Complaints.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But see,
now the complaints now I think are I mean, right now is magnified. A small complaint that would have been a small complaint 3 years ago, this year?
No.
Because now they're going to record
this, and I can only speak for the City of Atlanta Police Department. We've always taken, our OPS has always taken every complaint that comes. I could complain in Sykes' office. I could complain that he spoke too loud to me on a traffic stop. And guess what? As a supervisor, I'm going to have to investigate that complaint.
But now let me ask you this, and I want you to be honest with this. Mm-hmm. If 8 years ago somebody reported you that Officer Sykes spoke too loud and rudely to them and didn't have a cell phone video to prove it, but now somebody records it, is it different now? Be honest.
No. Now this I would tell you.
Yes. See what I'm saying? The man said yes.
That's improved policing. But I had Fat Daddy Hall, Charlie Owens, Will Adams Sr., Chief Bell, Chief Beverly Harvard, Chief Turner, a lot of black. See, Atlanta's not the police department to pick on because we've had strong black and white leaders, Major Mock. We've had strong leaders that didn't let that shit flow. It's one thing, it's like the old saying, if you whoop an ass right, they don't complain. Meaning, what that means is when you do people right and you don't insult them and you don't disrespect them, they don't complain because they knew their actions led to your actions. So what I'm saying with that is, yes, go ahead.
Go ahead, Officer.
Lieutenant, I hear you, but there is a knee-jerk reaction to anything that is a visual complaint of a video. There is a knee-jerk reaction to appease the public before there is an actual investigation completed.
Exactly. I 100% complete. Believe me, I went through that before I retired, and that's one of the reasons I went ahead and retired, because I'm not going to sell anybody down the river. And that's what it's come to. You got officers that legitimately were doing their jobs that'll get fired, or they'll suspend you and pay you and put you in the office so they know you were right, but because public opinion is such, they won't. And where our disagreement is, I don't fault the public. It's the administration that wants to get reelected.
The administration is not backing the officer.
That's what the issue is. Officers don't fear the public.
Yeah, I believe that.
The administration.
But the thing is, for the officer to have to get backed by the administration, something has to come from the public for that to happen. So you end up out there on pins and needles trying not to get something going to the administration for them to back you.
That's what I'm telling you. You're wrong about that, and that's what's hurting poor black Americans.
It's not. We're not talking about Americans right now. We're talking about black cops. We're not talking about Americans. Americans are not on trial.
No, but black cops aren't having an issue now because black cops are just like white cops.
I'm reading an issue from a cop.
They're saying hands off. Ask that same officer. Okay, I can tell by your line you are a police officer, the caller we have now. And I would take, because you're just too knowledgeable, but I would tell you this. Be honest. Since everything has occurred, how many officers are answering 911 calls but not policing, not proactive policing? And proactive policing reduces crime. Answering 911 calls has nothing to do with your crime stats. Correct?
I agree.
So who's suffering?
Proactive policing, unfortunately, has dropped drastically because of the fear of the repercussions of you going up to someone, approaching them, and doing an investigation. Now, I don't know what happened into society that people thought that police knew who the criminal was by looking at them, but it's done by asking questions. It's done by investigation. It's done by, hey, where you coming from? What's going on? And having a conversation with people. Those things are down because police officers are fearful. I'm just telling you what's been voiced to me. Or what I heard.
Yeah, I agree with that. But they're not fearful of the public. They're fearful of their own administration. Won't back them. They're not because people. This is what most police officers.
Listen to him. Listen to him. Go ahead, officer. I ain't got to say it. He's about to say it for me.
And I hear you. And yes, that's true. But the administration is the voice of the public, and they respond to the public.
So that's big what he just said. I mean, when you think about it, because he's basically saying, and you just said similar, is if you take away the proactive stance of the police officers, then the black community is suffering. Yeah. Because crime now is going to go up because the only thing they responded to is 911 call, and that's
exactly that's what it basically is.
And that's a problem. That takes away that police.
Right, and that's what I feel that is something that's not within our community anymore because of, now, again, I get what you're saying about the administration, but if an officer asks someone certain questions or whatever, and then that person just happens to want to claim harassment or whatever, it's going to go up the chain. And now you're talking about administration not backing them. Exactly. But now it gets to a point to where an officer doesn't want to ask those questions because if it goes up, again, and usually and from the guys that I talk to, they get that mostly from our people.
Not our people.
Mm-hmm.
You're wrong.
The infected.
Not our people.
Okay.
Not our people.
The infected.
See, that's what.
But mine is about black people. I asked them specifically about black people. Infected black people.
He's saying,
infected black people. Whatever we're talking about is black people.
But you got to realize the first help call that was put in for me was put in by a citizen.
Black citizen?
A black citizen. I've always been in black areas, zone 1. I was going down the area, and I was blocking up dope boys, so they had it set up where somebody was supposed to shoot me down the alley, and a caller knew about it, and called this, I'm telling my age, payphone, but called in on the payphone, the radio said, chill, be careful.
Right.
And at that point, I slowed down, we got more officers over there, and they called it a Uzi gun at the time, but it was a Tech 9 and a 9. And so, the rest of it's history. But I'm just saying that's what's dealt with the public. And I'm just saying, and the reason why I keep on saying it, no, it's not the black public doesn't matter, because the people that matter, the people that go to work every day, that mother, when you go to a black area, and this is why a lot of crime occurs in black areas. If you go through zone 1 or zone 3 or zone 4, when you go to a McDonald's, the lady that answers and takes the thing is 28 years old or 30 years old or 40 years old, a guy flipping the burgers, or has 3 kids. They're actually working to support their family. Well, what happens to the black male that can't get a job? What is he supposed to do, starve? No, he's going to sell dope. He's going to do other things. But so the community people that matter to me, what I police, the black people, no, they love police officers. Why do you think we get called into the community? It ain't white people from Gwinnett calling in
and I get what you're saying. I promise you I do. But again, I'm not a cop.
Yeah.
Closest I've been, I was a correction officer.
Okay.
That's the closest, and I'll never.
Know what I'm talking about.
I know a lot of. I dealt with some law enforcement, and had to deal with some craziness in there. Of course, it was a long time ago. Payphones was out there.
Reggie Ball.
Payphones was out there. Yeah. But my thing is, my thing with it is, I just reached out. I have another one that I haven't even read his response yet. He sent me a long response. Played basketball with that guy, so I know him. This guy I don't know as well, But the other guy I know really well, and I'm gonna read his responses in a minute. But you're right. It's a pressure it's a pressure to not get the backing from the administration. Mm-hmm. So it gets to a point to where, like you said, you're almost, I ain't gonna say scared, but you're thinking about.
You're scared.
Okay, you're scared to proactively police, because if you happen to say the wrong thing, not on purpose, do the wrong thing, not on purpose, that again, and usually if it's the infected, they're going to report it up top, and now your administration is not going to back you.
Exactly.
And according to this guy, and I didn't ask about, I asked about Black Americans. I'm Black, and I think those are the people that listen to
He's currently serving, so he's not going to talk about the infected. But you ask that same officer, and okay, you still on the line, officer?
Yeah, he's still on the line. Yeah.
Okay, tell me this. I don't know what city, you don't have to say what city, community, but if you had a magic wand and could make 10 people disappear in the area that you police, how drastically would crime be reduced in the area where you police?
Probably 85, 90%, no doubt.
There you go. That's what I mean by the effective. So when I say that they're not listening to Black people, and those are the people that are suffering the most, and the voice, black voice doesn't matter, because poor Black people, just because they're in that situation, are not criminals, they're not animals, they're not dogs. They don't feed on each other. It's the infected amongst them that do. And what's happened is racist white America, not all white, but racist white America, allowed the infected's voice to be the Black people's voice. And because that's the one everybody's hearing, Black leadership and administrators jumped on that bandwagon.
And again, I'm with you
So
on
you
all
said
of
something
that.
just then, though.
Now, he said something powerful right there.
Right there. That's why.
That was something powerful right there.
What did I say earlier?
Yeah, you said
we got to have him back for another show.
Yeah.
Because this show.
That said a lot.
Yeah. What? I mean, that right there.
That's a whole other perspective. It's a perspective.
Yeah. I mean, that we hadn't had that on this show yet. So that's something we got to hit back on. We got to have you back with some more Glenn Levitt. I'm gonna turn you on to something different too. We're gonna get that Porter here the next time. We're gonna get that Porter here the next time.
Hey, can I call him in and get some of that?
Nah, we ain't bringing Uncle here.
Yeah, we gonna bring Uncle.
We bring Uncle here. I'm gonna have to call an Uber. Uncle is some sit still type of drinking, brother. Ain't no pressing gas pedals after you drink Uncle Nearest. That's what we talking about right now. Uncle Nearest is sit back and go to sleep.
No, but like I said, I'm being a little bit, because I'm finally getting a voice after 30 years of policing. I really appreciate you having me on, brother.
Absolutely.
But what it is, I feel for the Black community. And what I hate is that white America, the ones that marched and all that, and the anarchists that came down to that rally, and I'll talk about that on another show or today's show, the people that were doing that rioting and acting a fool, you have Black people, white people, Asians, hand in hand, college kids, and not a bit of violence.
Right.
What happened was you allowed them infected amongst us to allow a white girl with a backpack. I was at CNN Ground Zero, hand out hammers to some infected. And they were breaking the windows, and we were in there, and we had to deal with it. Yeah. And now they got dealt with. Because the blubbers that threw the rocks knew that once we came out that door to get the hell on, those white people, anarchists from different states, stayed because they really thought that's that privilege, that's that white privilege. That people
right, they thought that they was okay to stand there.
They thought they was okay to stand there. And them brothers got their hell on, you know. But I can joke around because I'm retired, no more affiliation. But they got their hell on.
Excuse me. Was that the brothers or the infected?
Well, I'm sorry. The infected brothers got the hell on because they knew what was coming. But like I say, and I hate it because major media in America painted this picture of Atlanta that, the citizens of Atlanta is tearing it up. No, those anarchists handed ball-peen hammers. They knew what could break those windows because most of them came from Seattle, Oregon. Wow. And all these white people that were arrested doing that or involved in it, none of them were from Georgia. Wow. And if you look at, I'm just going to be real. My brothers from Zone 1, we didn't lock up any of them until the looting started. They weren't down there breaking windows and trashing out stuff. They want to paint this picture of the savages in Atlanta just tore up their own communities. No. Those are anarchists that spurred black kids from the suburbs that stuck around and other people that stuck around to do stuff and act out on their energy because they got a ticket 3 months ago from a police officer or they were locked up for drinking in public when they were 18. Okay, they acted a fool because the anarchists spurred it. But the African Americans from Atlanta were looting. They were up in Phipps Plaza.
Right.
Lenox.
Looting stuff.
Lenox.
Yeah.
Now, that's true. Now, administration's not going to talk about that. I cannot.
I was looking for it. Boy.
I was arrested.
I was asking, hey man, shoot, hit me up. I'll buy it. I just won't pawn it.
No, that's crazy though, and that's what you call the terrorist group.
Yeah.
And we kind of we touched on that back in that time. We touched on that a little bit about a lot of the people that was down there doing a lot of the stuff that they were doing were not from.
But it's great to hear the confirmation,
right?
Because we felt that from the beginning.
Yeah, sure
we
did.
Talked about that over and over again, and people have always chimed in. My boy Jaron said the same thing a minute ago. They got paid, but they actually hear it firsthand.
Yeah, see, they didn't talk about it.
Right.
They had chisels and a hammer because they'd already scouted the area. Those rocks that they were throwing, and I got hit in the knee with, and got hit in the shoulder with. That was from those same anarchists, and there's a couple brothers in there. And they were chiseling out those big barricades that they put up to look cute.
And that's where they got the rocks from?
Yeah, that's where they got the rocks from.
Wow.
That's how organized they were. The rocks, they were dropping off rocks and things and carrying rocks in backpacks days after that, those initial violent 3 days.
Wow.
And so that's what never came out.
Wow.
They wanted to put a black face on that violence.
Right.
Make it black people. It wasn't black people. It was anarchists and the infected amongst us. In your kids and my kids, middle class and upper middle class black kids that thought they were being black, acting a fool. Black people work hard in America. Black people bust their ass working jobs that other people don't want to work. The infected amongst us paint a picture and allow white America, racist white America, not all white America, racist white America to paint a picture of us as savages. And the reason I wanted to come here was to speak for the people in Zone 1 that love the police. I get plates every day. That's why I gained an extra weight and had to lose lose 20 pounds a day. Because I eat well in Zone 1. I'm on everybody's grill.
All right,
I know who has a baked bean.
I'm going to get to this next question. You're going to like this answer because actually the administration backed him on this one. Officer on the line, I want you to answer the question also after I give his answer. The question was, has he been treated differently by people in the last 6 months? Black people. He said he had. He said at the protest, he said, I had a black man asking me, why was I up here standing for these people? Also, he had a black female telling him that she knew he was black and could not believe he was defending a white officer over a black female. She made a complaint against the white officer, and when they took a look at the evidence, it showed that her story was false and the complaint was thrown out. So that time, that they backed him on that one. But what he was saying,
body cams are a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So what he was saying with that was being that the black female. Wait a minute, I lost. Hold on. That the black female was asking him, why is he standing there defending a white officer over a black female, because he was a black officer. So, officer on the line, expound on that. Have you been treated differently by black people, infected or not, over the last 6 months or so?
I have witnessed many more people come up to me out of the blue and just say, listen, we want you to know that you are supported by the community and that everyone does not hate the police. Those are facts.
Black people.
A lot more people have done that recently than before the protest.
That's dope.
Yeah, that's facts.
Wouldn't you agree that the infected are the ones that are negative?
Say it one more time.
The infected, those are the ones that are the negative ones in our community, correct?
You know what? And I'm gonna go along with you on infected, but mainly I'm gonna say uninformed. They have narrow opinions, and their opinion is formulated by other people's claims, so they're not factually based.
Exactly.
So yeah, I meant to ask about that earlier. Some of the infected, I get it. I know who those are.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some people, like the officer on the line is saying, that's running around with the infected, but they're actually not infected. They're pretty much uninformed. When
those are black people. Those are black people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just black people. Yeah.
But the people it is, those are the middle class. Those are the middle class. Those are the ones, you know why? Because the poor black people had to go to work. No, just being real. They had to go to work.
Well, see, at that time, though, there was no work.
No.
We were at home.
No,
we were at home.
No, a lot of African Americans had real jobs that they still had to work
Wait,
at.
now, I had a real job.
No,
I wasn't working.
I'm talking about.
No, I'm just playing with you.
On a pay level, on a pay level, you know, the pay levels where you still had to work. The people that's moving boxes and doing things of that nature, keeping commerce going in America, those African American people that work hard every day. That's zone one. You saw the mothers standing out in lines waiting to get on the MARTA bus. That bus was still there. That bus was still there.
Yeah, I believe that. But
what happened was you had a lot of buppies, yuppies, anarchists, middle class black kids, middle class teachers. Teachers were all. There's a lot of. I had some wonderful conversations with teachers in the crowd. That's what people are looking at. I can get some film so you can start posting it, going back and forth with teachers and everybody. We're having good dialogue. Well, why can you do this? We're going back and forth and we're explaining case law and what allowed officers to do what they did. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
nightfall came. You know what happened? When nightfall came, everybody left.
That's the word that I got from some people that I knew that actually went down there.
Yeah.
They was like, man, listen, we was down there till like 6 o'clock, 6:30.
And they got the hell on.
He said by the time we got home, we couldn't believe what we were seeing on the news because we were just there.
They wanted to paint the African Americans and white people that protested, exercised their right of freedom of speech with the same brush they did the looters or the same people, the anarchists that run around breaking windows and not taking nothing.
Right.
What black man's gonna do that? Atlanta's a different city, baby. Atlanta's a different city. And so, like, I'm joking about it to put light on it, but the reality of it is the people of Atlanta were given a missed service. If you look at go by who was arrested, and the sad thing is a lot of them that kicked up, those anarchists, as soon as they got them stirred up, they disappeared.
Man,
no, and they haven't, you never heard anything about the ones that were arrested, any charges or any of that kind of stuff?
Well, see, the thing too, and I fault the media for that, and I fault the administration. I will talk about that, and also for DA's office, because I was hit with a brick, and they wanted to dismiss all those charges from people. Because I looked at the dude as he threw the brick, it bounced off somebody's shield, and it popped me. I said, "Oh hell no!" And I remember that individual, and he was one of the ones that stuck around. You know,
right?
You know me. He knows me, but I'm just. But the fact that he was charged, and they wanted to dismiss those charges. Now let's play devil's advocate here. If it was an African American male who threw a brick and hit a white cop in Texas,
no chance.
Do you think those charges are getting dismissed?
Not at all.
And so what happens? You have a black administration that listens to the others, but doesn't care to listen to the people that matter, the black kids. Have that same voice you're talking about police brutality when you look at the teaching scandal that hit Atlanta.
Right.
The teaching scandal where principals and teachers were forging tests on black youth. Let's talk about that.
Right.
Let's have that same fury to burn shit and act a fool and prosecute over that.
Prosecute, right.
But I'm not going to talk about the individual who I respect that came and spoke in their behalf.
Really?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He asked them, don't lock these people up.
Right.
And so that's what I'm talking about. The only people that get shitted on in everything that happens in America are black people.
Facts.
Yeah, I believe that wholeheartedly. The third question: are the officers, allowed to speak amongst themselves about the recent police shootings, and if so, do they? What he said was, yes, we're allowed to speak about it. He said, and we speak amongst each other. Usually look at it as being, they don't usually look at it as being right or wrong, but what they try and use it as an educational piece, and they try and look at it to see what could have been done better or what probably was done wrong, so that they can educate themselves. And I thought that was, I thought that was pretty cool. you know, that they are, that would you say the same thing, officer, on the line?
Facts. It is looked at as basically training information. We try to learn. I mean, like anything else, you learn from other people's, learn from what they do, what you don't do, and you learn from that to make yourself better.
Yeah, because he said the case, I forgot what state it was in, where the guy was, you know, came around the side of the vehicle. He ended up getting shot 7 times. What they were saying is that there's no way he should have been able to get around the vehicle. If they'd have they shouldn't have let him get around the vehicle. You'd have got him before he got around the vehicle and got him in handcuffs. You know, that wouldn't have happened. So, yeah.
And
and it's easy to quarterback, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, I'm not going hands on with somebody with a knife in their hand.
Oh, that's right. He did have a knife. I just remembered that right there. Well, like I said, it's easy to quarterback on it. You know,
Right.
he's basically stating that they, they looked at it as an educational type thing,
I won't even
and they just was saying that somehow they should have been able to keep him from getting around to his driver's side. That's what he was saying.
I do think that they could have used other means to prevent him from getting the vehicle.
Right.
Yes, I do believe that.
I mean, the bottom line is, it's 3 police officers there, and I know both the caller and this gentleman beside me quite well. Nobody gonna get to their vehicle. Period.
he knows me very well.
Nobody gonna get to that vehicle.
I know the caller pretty well, and I think if it was him by himself, he wouldn't have got there. Real talk, I've seen him, body up on some people. and he was so nice about it, he helped him up afterwards. So yeah, I know that I'm with you.
It's never personal. That's what people. That's
right.
what a lot of people don't understand. It's never personal with officers.
Never.
Most officers
Never.
use that force as necessary, and we typically could go one level over the force that that person's used. And that's the beauty of policing. I mean, we enjoy it because you're
but Lieutenant, let's educate people on why we use one step above, because the Supreme Court has said that a police officer cannot lose. A police officer has the right to use the amount of force necessary to effect that arrest.
Yes.
Period. Point blank.
And if you're using a knife, that means I can use a gun. If you're threatening and you have it's about ability, opportunity, and jeopardy. If you have ability to carry it out, jeopardy is there, but a reasonable person in your same line of work would believe that force is necessary. And jeopardy means it's right then. In other words, if you talked about it 4 hours ago when you run into them, it's totally different. But right there in the moment, they're not letting a decision that's made in seconds be Monday morning quarterback. That's what the Supreme Court decided. And a lot of times as African Americans, we don't realize in the time frame that it happened, and when you look at the totality of circumstances, a lot of force that we say is not justified is clearly justified when it's given that litmus test. Does that mean all? No, of course not. There is brutality. But when you look at it, a lot of that stems from the fact that training is not on the same level.
Universal.
Once you get outside of Georgia, it goes down. It gets pretty podunk. In fact, you can
talked
put
about
on a
that too.
badge as a sheriff and police for weeks before you even go to mandate training.
Correct.
And so what I would say, and I will add this in because I wanted to press this as one of my things I wanted to say before we get away from it. The biggest things that could affect the change and help African Americans in America, number one, and a lot of white people are going to want it because they're going to think it's like Clockwork Orange or too much governmental control, and they don't want a national police. I'm not saying every single police officer should be trained in a regional police academy. Now, once you leave that academy, you fall under the sheriff or police department, but everybody should have the same training. And doing that, what you're going to have to affect, it's going to take years. This is not something that's going to be quick, but we've been getting asked with Black Americans for years, so a couple more years is going to hurt, but it's better if you start to change.
Right.
But you have it where there's a set laws in Georgia, Tennessee, all 50 states and U.S. territories have the exact same laws.
Correct.
It shouldn't be a situation where you're charged with a felony in one state and a misdemeanor in another state, or it's legal in one state, it's not legal in another state. Because what happens is you have a blunt and you're from California and you're walking around smoking the thing in the school, you come down to Atlanta, it all depends on the officer.
Right.
And there shouldn't be that much discretion. An officer shouldn't be able to be God on the scene.
Shouldn't have to be.
It should be cut and dry. And see, we're putting too much latitude in a 21-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 22-year-olds. Because think about what we used to do. And you think if the same crew came back, would we still do it the same way?
No.
Exactly. So we evolved.
Right.
But policing has evolved. But they want to paint this narrative and allow the ends to be infected to sit down and write the narrative for Black America and have this face of poor Black American. That's what I want to speak on. The people I policed for in Zone 1 were good people. Like that also said, 80 to 90% of a crime could be reduced if he could make 10 people disappear. And the sad thing about it is everybody knows who those people are. Now, if you want to put somebody out on blast, Paul Howard. You can go and look in Fulton County and see people that have been arrested 15, 20, 30, 40 times and didn't spend a day in jail or got minimal sentencing and got right back out.
Right.
Now, let's just play devil's advocate here. If somebody had shot somebody, had a trafficking or possession with intent amount of cocaine in Buckhead, do you think that person would be out or get probation? Or get recommended by the DA's office for probation? No.
No. That ain't gonna happen in Marietta.
Exactly. But what we have to look at is, and I want to get on a little soapbox here. Black on black crime has to be addressed as us as a people. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at Atlanta, I can't say recently because I haven't been up on this year's crime stats, but it was almost 10 years other than the Black socialite that married the white guy. All the murder, and we had one when I was in Fugitive, it happened in Jasper. It was a meth dealer that killed a white guy and a black guy off of Stewart Avenue for screwing with his dope. But there hasn't, other than a homeowner or a shop owner, there hasn't been a single homicide of a white person killing a black person, yet we average over 100 a year. Black males, or black people being killed.
Wow.
And see, that's what's deep that we have to look at.
Wow.
And but that mirrors, I got cousins at police in Chicago and other cities, and it mirrors in all major cities with a black population. So we have to quit allowing the infected amongst us to write the narrative for all of us. Because the reality of it is, we want to be pro-black and talk about, but the only people that are being hurt right now are poor African Americans because they're having to deal with the infected themselves. And you know what that means? Ask anybody if a police is in a poor area in Atlanta, and they'll tell you this. I was shocked. When I policed in Zone 1, you can drive by all day Saturday or during the summer, all day, Monday through Sunday. And you would say, damn, where are the kids? Where are the kids? Now, let fall roll around. Now, this pandemic's different, but before the pandemic, when you roll through, at 6:30 in the morning, you'd be pissed. Because you get caught behind a school bus, you catching hell. Because that same complex where you didn't see a kid all summer long unless you answer the call, there'll literally be 50, 60, 110, 120 deep. You know what I'm talking about, bro? 120 deep in one apartment complex, but there's 4 of them on the street. These are kids that are growing up playing PlayStation. They didn't get to play ball. They didn't get to play football. They didn't get to play whatever. Look at where the kids are coming from to play sports. Now they're coming from the suburbs. They don't come from the city anymore. Because these kids are marred. They can't do it. The traps are covered. The traps in the parks and recreation centers. The kids selling, the dope boys out there selling dope, so the parents can't let the kids come out there and play.
Right.
But see, no, that's something you want to protest. Protest the lack of caring. Now, I will put the city on blast about this. Zone 1. Drive through Zone 1. There's a couple parks. There is city block. They're putting all these nice parks in all of a sudden because of gentrification. But you know what I'm talking about, over there on Simpson?
Yeah.
But those
Yeah.
parks weren't there before.
Right.
So those black kids, that's what I mean by we
Right.
didn't matter.
Right.
That's what I meant by we didn't matter. I wanted you to get on me about that so I can elaborate more. But that's what I mean by we didn't matter. And that's the sad thing about it. I never, ever, ever felt bad about being a police officer because I knew I was championing my people. But what I feel bad about is the black administrations that line their pockets and line the pockets of friends, Kasim Reed and his boys, and you policed enough to know if the feds don't call you in to question you, they don't have to because they got you by the balls.
All right, so I already got you.
Because everybody that went in there snitched on somebody else. That's why that investigation took so long.
That's correct.
Because they said the corruption in the city of Atlanta is as bad as it was in New Orleans. Just the violence wasn't there.
Wow.
You're talking about the black haves, the black educated. I like to call them the black 10%.
Hey, well, hold on. Address that corruption because that corruption they had in New Orleans dealt with police officers. So make sure you address that.
Well,
When you
y'all
say
address
corruption.
that. It wasn't.
It was political
in
corruption
Atlanta,
here.
It was political corruption.
Correct.
It wasn't
Correct.
law enforcement wise. But the corruption is so deep that they haven't even called Kasim. Kasim's number's there.
Wow.
Kasim he's fried chicken.
Yeah.
Oh, Kasim's like toast.
Yeah. He living his best life because he knows it's about to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
those are the things that we're not looking at as a people.
Let me ask y'all something about policing, real quick. Let's just say, I mean, it's been a long time since you're on the street, but
I was on the street just in July. I'm spent my whole career on the street.
I mean, when I'm talking about like a beat officer, I'm talking about. So the question is this: if you had a pit bull on the loose, and that was your phone, that was your 911 call, what do you do when you arrive? What's the phone call you make? When you call dispatch, who you asking for?
Call dispatch, you ask for animal control.
Ask for who?
Animal control.
Animal control.
Animal control, yeah.
So, if you go to a call and you have a person that's mentally ill, who do you call?
Now, well, thank you for that. I would take Chief. Let me answer that.
Go ahead.
Exactly, Grady. You have Chief Harvard. Chief Turner started. Chief Turner and Chief Shields. There's a Grady unit that comes out. So anytime we have somebody that's mentally challenged, we call out Grady. So we don't use that force. We literally stand by and contain the situation. So they come and they got this needle. Once they hit them with it, they out cold. And the only time we go hands-on, a lot of times they have a prior history because they've got all the person's medical records, they can look it up, and they talk the person down a lot of times, and the person gets in the vehicle by themselves, and you're saying, so that tells you probably work for Atlanta, so we'll talk offline. And you probably know me. and you probably know me, so chime in on that. When they call out, it's handled. And so what happens is, and that's the antiquated system that occurs all over America, when you see mentally challenged people, which you can blame on the Republican Party and Ronald Reagan when he defunded mental health care in America, which is something nobody talked about. But when he defunded mental health care in America, all those people were released to the streets. Now, Grady and Atlanta Police Department are so forward-thinking that these units come out, and you rarely have an incident. I can't remember the last time with somebody, unless it's one that's just so violent he has to be dealt with right then. We call out and wait because nobody wants to go hands-on with them.
So the reason I ask that question is because of all the different shootings of these people who are mentally ill. And I've made this argument over and over again because of the fact that most of these places don't have that phone call to make.
They don't have a phone call. That
so,
resource is not there.
So that resource is not there. And so my point of asking that question is just because I feel like that's something that also should be universal amongst when they talk about the funding of the police and all this stuff, these are the issues that I don't think defunded. It takes money, but it should be a defunding. It should be, expanding. You know what I mean? Because I think that's a major issue. Because like you said, you have a unit to call, but most places do not. Do not. So the police, like that shooting we're talking about, was a mentally ill person,
right,
whose mother asked for somebody to call. She didn't ask for the police. She's told them up front, my child is mentally ill. And next thing you know, her child is dead in the streets because they called out. The police showed up, you know what I mean? And they handled it like police, you know, like they feel like the police are going to do on certain situations with
like
a black person. Right.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this, being at law enforcement. Do you think that funds should be reallocated to certain areas? Do you feel that there is monies being used in the department? Well, of course, you can only speak of the departments that you're in, but in the departments, I'm gonna say all of them, but in the departments that could be used, that could be better used, say in this case, money could be used towards having that specialist or on call for this type of emergency.
Well, here's the thing. Good point and good question. When you say reallocated, that means you're taking money from police officers, whether it's training, whether it's equipment.
Exactly. And
I think that they, like Angelo said, they need more funding instead of, I don't know a police officer that would not like to be better trained and have better equipment. So instead of reallocating, let's put more funding in there and just shift it towards this direction. But you don't want to take money away because you're taking money away from training and equipment, which is used to keep those officers safe and make those scenes safe to help officers do their job. So reallocated is kind of strong for me.
Okay, with that, is there any is there any place that you feel money is being put towards that should be shifted, let's say, towards more training or better equipment?
Well, because I'm a lieutenant, and I actually had a budget in SWAT and different units, and you got and I'm just speaking for Atlanta. Atlanta's phenomenal, and since I've been there under Chief Bell, Harvard, Pennington, and even Chief Bryant today, and Turner and Shields, the money's there to go for training. And I made sure my people, I used to tell them, you got 2 outside trainings you must do a year. If you don't do them, I'll pick it for you. And I purposely picked the most mundane, boring training I could find. Because it was like basically pick your own poison. And I always told them, pick something where the next unit you want to go to so to have career advancement. But what happens in a lot of it's not Atlanta. So you have these small podunk departments with 25 people, 30 people. Start looking at the patches on the shoulder. When you see somebody getting their ass whooped, wrong just being brutalized and toe up, look at the patches on there. And then look at the training record on that department. Atlanta, hands down, other than Gwinnett and Cobb, I can't say a department in the state of Georgia, and Gwinnett and Cobb don't match Atlanta, to grant, but they're up there. But nobody matches the amount of training we get, and that's why you don't see a lot of incidents in Atlanta that you see other places, because officers are undertrained. You got some departments that they get a badge in 6 weeks, 8 weeks. How the hell can you get a badge in 6 weeks, 8 weeks? It takes that long just to learn the law.
Right.
And then you're giving
Hold on. 6 to 8 weeks, and you're 21, 22 years old.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And think about what you did at 22, and now you got a gun.
This is why I don't. This is going back to what we was on last week. This is why I don't think 21 and 22 year olds should be teaching high school education.
Yeah.
Okay, not a gun, but I got. I'm over. Yeah. I mean,
it's just as dangerous. It's dangerous. Worse because you have a lost child. And see, that's what I'm talking about. My community. When I say my community, you got to realize when I take that badge and gun off, I'm still black. I'll tell you a quick story. I worked a federal case, a task force. I was on the task force, Jasper County. So my buddies out there that might be watching this, you know what I'm talking about. And I worked with this federal prosecutor hand in hand. But every time we met, I was always coming in raid gear, and she had never saw me dressed up. She licked one side of my ass to the other side of my ass. Just being nice. Cordial, we joked around, We're getting ready to go to the trial phase. So in federal court, you meet with the prosecutor, with the AUSA, and you go over the case and you go over the questions and what can be asked and what are your rebuttals going to be. Well,
Hey, LT, move that mic closer. You step away from the mic.
Well, basically, you meet them, and I dealt with her on levels for weeks. I came in a suit on the day we were going to trial, and I got on the elevator with her and spoke to her because I was working undercover at the time. Me and my Giuliano, who's a good friend of mine who's passed away. But I got on the elevator with her and spoke to her, and she looked down and looked away, white female.
Really? Same one.
Same one.
Wow.
And see,
No idea who you were.
Wow.
No idea who I was. And so
Wow.
what I'm telling, but it showed me how she would normally react to an African American male. And what I'm saying to everybody is that when you look at a black police officer, oh, don't get it twisted. We still got to drive home. I know I used to get pulled over routinely by Rockdale County until they realized who I was. And a lot of times, and Sykes, you can attest to this, when you get pulled over and the officer comes to the car and you look at him, and now I don't play. I just show, well, I can't now, but I used to show my badge right off the back because you don't even want it to go that far.
Right.
But back in the day, you said, oh, so why'd you stop me? I don't know how many times they just turned around and walked away because they know they had no reason to stop me. So don't get me wrong. Pretextual stops and profiling does occur. But so many African Americans are fixated on the wrong thing. When most of the African Americans that have been killed, face it, there was a common denominator. There's a crime that occurred. And the degree of force, that's debatable. But you know what I talk about, what we need to talk about, is African American males that are slain without using a bullet.
Yeah.
Say, instead of that being a cigar, a nice stick, that's a blunt. You pass it to me, I smoke it, I pass it to you, we smash it to him, pass it to him, and then his punk tail, we all smoking weed, and he throw down a bag with 50 hits. There's a thing called wingspan. Now everybody's in wingspan that, all because he won't own up, he's a punk, and we listen to that street bullshit,
Right.
street cred, we not snitching. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 black males are charged with a felony.
That's right.
Possession with intent to distribute cocaine.
And I've been saying it since we started doing this thing. We have to clean up our own backyard.
This how deep it goes. No, the system needs to be changed because now we're all charged with possession with intent. Okay, Sykes here, he got a silver spoon up his ass sideways. His mom and daddy can post bomb.
Hold up.
Okay, your mom and daddy
wait. Did you say sideways?
Yeah. So your mom and daddy
Another
are
misconception.
teaching Douglas High School. So they call in the favor. Your mom and daddy, my mom and daddy, and your mom and daddy ain't got shit. You're home going to school the next day with maybe a black eye. You got a stern talking to. We're sitting in jail for 3 or 4 months. The first month passed and we hard. No, I'm innocent. That was his dough. Now that second month come around, and I'm missing out on football. I might get a football scholarship. I'm worrying about life. I can't see my girl. Now, we get the most trashed out piece of shit attorney it is, and that's a public defender. That public defender, not the ones that come from a rich background or decide to do the right thing, or black ones that decide to do the right thing, or white ones that try to do the right thing. I'm talking about the ones that were on the bottom level of their graduating class at law school, so I'm gonna be a public defender so I can prove myself, and a law firm will pick me up. Now, other ones that get it are the pro bono cases. Every lawyer in Georgia has to do a certain amount of pro bono cases a year. So that pro bono lawyer comes in, he's got to do all these cases for all the law people in his law firm. So when those kids come around, you know what he says? I can get you out today. Yeah. Now you're talking about a 17, 18, 19-year-old and up. What's the most important thing to you right now? Your freedom. So that's what I'm saying. When you see a criminal that commits a criminal act and get killed, that ain't shit. Because most of them not saying they had it coming, but they were living a life that they knew was going to end up that way from a cop or somebody on the street. But I'm talking about college kid, wannabe college kid, had a job lined up. Well, no, you the one to hold the crack. So you would only nothing. you would only nothing in the bunch. But all those kids had dreams, and those dreams ended because of laws like Wingspan that allowed all 5 of them to be arrested on that criminal charge. Now, you beat it, you beat it, you didn't beat it, I didn't beat it, and you deserved it. Because you did it 2 weeks later, you did the same thing once you got out. But you and me now have a felony. Now, it's hard enough being a black male in America, but now think about being a black male with a felony.
With a felony.
Now, we're 13% of the population, 5% of it's black. Please check these facts out there, people. Because this one thing I do in the community, when I'm policing, I ask people, how many people, what percentage do you think we make up? I ask that question to my officers that run to my command at CSU. Only a handful of them knew the true answer. Most people think it's 35, 25%. We're only 13% of America. That's probably the new census count, what they're looking at. So a 5% of that is black males. Now, when you look at the percentage of them that have already been incarcerated and have a felony, it might be 2%. So now you're thinking 3% that are viable black males in society. You wonder why black females have trouble getting dates and there's an issue. And that's what we're looking at. Those are the things as a community we need to start looking at. Instead of jumping on the bandwagon and making a big deal about something, because the reality of it is, there's not that many police shootings. When you look at the total number of incidents involving police a day, millions of incidents. Now, one life being lost is too much. But what we need to start doing as a people is waiting till the case is adjudicated. I can tell you every case of force that's been used in the city of Atlanta where it was a criminal offense, those guys are sitting in jail. That officer that killed that guy for breaking into cars and he came down and lied and his dumb ass didn't look up and see the video camera and it showed him shooting him when he was coming down and then he made up a lie, he's in jail. 25 years or whatever, I forgot what he got, I'm just guessing 25 because he was straight convicted. And there's other officers that have been convicted of force. Not all because of Paul Howard deserved it, like tomorrow. But there's a lot of officers that are getting charged. So when an officer comes out there, imagine that pressure. And now you're talking about taking qualified immunity out of it. Qualified immunity means if you're acting in good faith, your feet are good. I used to tell I was old school, so I told my people, always be able to justify where your feet are. If you can justify where your feet are, 9 out of 10 times you're going to be right on what you're doing, meaning I don't approach him unless I have probable cause or articulate suspicion to why I approach him. So if I approach Sykes and I don't have a reason, my feet aren't right. So anything that happens after that is dead ass wrong.
Hey, LT, stepping away from that mic.
So when you approach him, if you approach him and you're right, your feet are right. If your feet aren't wrong, in other words, I don't have a reason to approach him, they're not going to be right. But now you're taking that qualified immunity away. So what are officers doing? Just like you do. If Sykes told you if you're a bartender and you pour more than an ounce, you're fired, or you got to buy the bottle, shit, bartenders would be undercutting every drink. Right?
Right.
And the same things happen with law enforcement. What's happening with law enforcement now, they're so worried about repercussions for things they should do that protect the black people in our communities. They're so worried about one of the infected saying something or doing a lie, or you do a lawful arrest or try to do a lawful arrest like those officers did during that situation, and you're charged with a felony and you can't feed your family, you have legitimately 2 regular extra jobs. And I forget what the administration says. If you give the officer the opportunity to work an extra job and he has 2 regularly scheduled extra jobs, like if I'm scheduled to work here, if I worked in this jurisdiction, are you going broke tomorrow?
Prayerfully not.
And I work 2 days, I'm going to get that money from you, correct? So is it something that I'm going above my means if it's something that I'm allowed to do? No. So those officers lost the ability to make that
right.
300 or 250 extra a night, cash I hope, and make that money. So that's $500 a week. So do the math. If you're making $500, that's $2,000 extra a month times 12. That's putting you in the same pay grade pretty much as just every other occupation in America. So when people are, a lot of times it's Caucasian, they'll come up to you on the extra job. I know you had it happen when you were also, and say, I was gonna become a police officer, but I couldn't make it. I live off that,
Right.
You know, and they make jokes, but the same officers you joke with, a lot of them are making 75, 85, 90, 100,000, and so they aren't gonna risk that and the ability to keep their child in private school, or like I did, send my kids to Kuman so they get a jump in school because they already got their math down, already got their science down. You know, instead of buying people quit buying a Lexus and send your kids to Kuman. You know, look what I drive when we live. I got 2 cars, and neither one of them is what I could drive. Now I'm gonna get a whip because I can. But when I had kids, they came first. So that's the type of things we should talk about in these groups. It's taking care of black people. Quit endorsing everything that one of the infected do. From the music we listen to. Think about all the black comedians. I guarantee every single one of them has a joke about the infected people. They don't call it infected. What's the first N word out of their mouth? N.
Sure.
And what they're talking about is infected. And we all laugh. Because where do you live, sir? Okay, where do you go to movies? North Lake? No, where do you go to movies?
Gwinnett.
Where do you go to movies?
There it is. Well, that's
But where do you live?
That's yeah, he live out there, so it's a
Okay,
little
that's
different.
a different. Well,
Yeah, same here.
I'm not going to ask you to.
Yeah, I'm in Cobb County too, so it's the
But
same
there's
thing.
so many people that live in one area and go to movies at another location. Or they live right by South DeKalb Mall, but they don't shop by South DeKalb Mall. And I got partners of mine that live in $600,000-$800,000 houses, but they don't go to South DeKalb Mall.
Would you?
Exactly. But why do you think they don't go to South DeKalb Mall?
Oh, South DeKalb, Greenbrier. Yeah, I get
Exactly.
that.
So
I
you
get
see
that.
what I'm saying? So that's
West
what I'm saying.
Indian.
That's what we need to work at. So we got to quit worrying about the infected and think about the black people that live in those communities. Think about the black kids that can't go to school and come home and play kickball or, flag football. And the only ones that get to do it are the ones that are so good that the AU team wants to pick up. But what about the kids that ain't that good? Shouldn't they have a spot where they can play? But nobody protests that. But you want to worry about some infected that committed a crime that gets smoked? He brought that shit on himself. He led a life that led to that occurrence. Now, did the officer overreact? Was the officer wrong? We ain't talking about that. We're talking about the life he led leading up to that. I'm not talking about all of them because you can't paint everything with a broad brush.
Okay.
But the vast majority of them have criminal records prior, and a criminal incident led to the encounter. Now, if you want to protest and make a change, don't worry about that. Worry about the 5 black guys that's smoking a blunt. A victimless crime.
Okay,
to
so-
get charged with a felony
so-
because one drops a rock or one has a gun and throws it down, so they charge everybody so that officers' arrest stats are padded. But you got 5 black people whose lives are irreparably changed. You wanted to be a Supreme Court justice, or you parlayed yourself to where you could go to elected office. But what's going to come back up?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, so many black people are destroyed before they even start by antiquated laws like Biden put in with Clinton, where 28 grams equals a kilo. Trump took that away with a few good things he did. But that's the type of things that we need to start looking at as a people. We need to quit existing like Cubans in Miami, where you have the Cubans with money and the Cubans without money. We need to start truly worrying about them, not when there's a bad police shooting, but every single day and every step of their lives. So when we have meetings and everybody, March, let's march for 50 days. No, march because they didn't do nothing to teachers that slayed over 15,000 black kids. I'm just putting a nice number on it.
Well,
That was going on for months in the city of Atlanta school system.
now with
where
the
tests
teachers
were
thing,
taken. Yeah.
and make sure am I remembering this correctly?
Teachers were taking tests.
Yeah, right.
Changing scores. This is where
Wait, did they get prosecuted?
Yeah.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Drop the
So
hammer.
and that's what I thought.
You don't think?
And I hear what you're saying.
And
I hear what you're saying. I like that. You're saying we need to start. It's what I keep saying about cleaning up our own backyard. We need to start. I get that.
Yeah.
Protesting for better
school systems
and
bringing back vacation schools.
Better communities for our kids. I get that. But what you said was we need to start protesting something like the teachers of Atlanta cheating and everything, but they were prosecuted. Wait. Hold on. We just said they were prosecuted, did we not?
The outcome, the charges got reduced.
Did they get prosecuted?
They were prosecuted, but
they were guilty? All that type of stuff?
They were found guilty.
So now, and
certificates weren't taken.
I got you,
charged with felonies.
But they were, something happened. Excuse me, love. Yeah. Something happened. These people out here protesting the police shootings, some of them are not getting prosecuted. They're being called innocent. So you can't tell them not to prosecute, not to march that.
What I'm saying is what's really hurting us, because
and I got you on that. But we can't tell them to stop.
Thousands.
But we can't tell them to stop.
What I'm saying is focus what's on important is as a people. When you're taking people out of a job force, when somebody has a felony,
I'm with you on that, but you can't tell them to stop doing the other thing.
Well, my point is, let's focus our energies on what's going to really make a change for African Americans. What's going to make a change for African Americans is changing the law.
Go ahead.
Changing the law.
Now change the law.
JT.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
JT, but I would tell them before they protest and jump up all and down and make all this noise,
they need to get the facts. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, we are people that will see anything on social media and jump out there, and if we ain't protesting, we rah-rahing on social media for the wrong thing. I'm totally with that. I was a victim of that myself, and it actually took this man right here to tell me, "Hey, bro, just calm down. Wait a minute, hold up, just wait." I've been a victim of that myself, but I can't tell them to not protest the non-accountability that's being passed out here for some of the things that's happening. I can't tell them to stop.
Well, I would say on that,
but I think that's inaccurate, though.
Okay, go ahead. Expound on it. Am I saying the word right?
When you say non-accountability, I think that's inaccurate. I think the non-accountability comes from the assumption that they are guilty.
Preach.
Without knowing all the facts. So I think protests, for example, I felt it was a good thing that people protested when George Floyd was murdered. I think that was a good thing. People had the right and they should have protested. But people protest when they see a 5-second video and feel as though they know all the facts. They feel as though the situation is wrong without knowing, as Lieutenant said earlier, what happened before that, what led up to that situation. You have to take, and in police work, we like to use that term, totality of circumstances, to come to a conclusion. Exactly. And once before you jump to a conclusion, let's get all the facts first. That's all I'm saying.
But do you say that it's okay for them to protest?
Yes.
No, protesting is fine. I have no problem with people protesting. That's your constitutional right. You should.
Okay. All I'm saying is we can't tell people to not protest.
Well, we're not.
And I get it. We do need to put a lot of this. I would say we need to put the same energy that we put towards that to these things within our community, because I've been saying it for the longest. We have to clean up our own backyard.
But see, when I said with the protest, we let them write our narrative.
When I was saying about the protest down in Atlanta, I mean, there was dudes down there kicking the infected, down there kicking. I'll never forget it, because I was sitting there smoking a cigar, looking at it, going, "Why is this dude kicking a martyr sign? What the hell did a martyr sign have to do with anything that went down at that time?"
Want me to tell you why? I can tell you why.
Go ahead.
Because he feels as though he is being mistreated, and he feels as though he does not have a voice.
Yes.
That is the reason of the frustration. When in actuality, he does not have all of the facts to come to an accurate conclusion.
But even with that, kicking a martyr sign.
No, but it makes sense. I mean, I don't have any problem with that.
With them kicking the martyr sign?
No, I don't, because you got to look at it.
I don't.
This is what you forget, and I forget sometimes, but I'm in it, so I remember more, and they probably forget, is because the vast majority of African American males feel disenfranchised. They don't identify with the American dream. So what a lot of people don't understand, when African Americans act out, they're not just acting out for the incident.
True.
They're acting out for the fact that they
That's
don't
facts.
even get the call back on a job, and they know they were qualified.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Okay,
because that's why,
I got that.
Because I remember when I did the Regents test. I don't know if you went to school in Georgia, you had to take the Regents test in college. And the Regents test, and I was told by my professor to write my essay and not write it like I was black. True story.
Wow.
I was told to
I
write
believe
my essay
Damn.
so I would not appear black. Because you know why? And he explained it to us. Moses Ector, by the way, Mr. Ector, GBI, one of the highest ranking people ever in GBI, black man. Moses Ector told me that when you take that Regents test, when you take it, and several other teachers told me, when you take that test, they're identifying with who you are, but the people that grade those tests are all over Georgia. So he said basically it's going to go to any university anywhere.
Right.
So when you write about something and write it like you can, and I grew up Army brat, so I grew up all over. First time I went to black schools when I came to Georgia, predominantly black school. And it wasn't even predominantly black, but it's black. So a lot of African Americans don't get those opportunities. So when they're put in that situation, the system discriminates because it's able to, because you can identify those people. Like if race doesn't matter in America, why do you have to put a race on every form?
Have you noticed now they ask you, they used to ask you to put your race up there, but now they ask you if you're Caucasian, African American, these other things. But then they also ask you, are you Latino or of Mexican? Exactly how it is.
It says not Spanish.
Latino,
Not
black.
Spanish,
Yeah,
yeah, if you're not Spanish. But then in the next one, they ask you if you're African American. And that's a
Because
new
what
one that they
wanna
added
do,
on.
No, what they want to do is separate us even further, because you got to realize, and this is what I tell everybody, thanks to African brothers and Caribbean brothers, but if you take them out of African American males, people of African descent, direct African descent, meaning first generation, second generation, and Caribbean descent, first generation, second generation, if you take them out of black males going to college in America, check those numbers out. So that further dilutes our voting power and different things, because you got to realize the quickest way to do it, once again, I'm telling my age, but I can remember in the early 80s, remember when everybody got happy? When we started seeing black people on what commercials? 2 commercials we dominated, Ford automobile and McDonald's commercials. And after that, there was always that token black on every commercial. Now, you see commercials, we're a non-factor, and that's what we have to identify with as African Americans, because now when you see those same commercials, start watching commercials and pay attention to it. Now, it's a Latinos replace the blacks, or an Asian, or an Indian, some of it. Now, sometimes they'll still put an occasional black in there, but a lot of times, there's not a black on the whole commercial now. And that's what we got to look at, because when you put Asians and Indians together, most of them vote what? Their wallet. They don't vote their conscience.
Facts.
Okay? Latinos, why do they typically vote for a Republican? It's simple. Roman Catholic, abortion. Now, when you get the more modern and the younger ones, they're going to vote for Biden. But the staunch ones, they're going to go Republican every time. And if you've ever been to Texas, you like the white people in Texas over the Mexicans, Americans. They're more racist than, And so what we got to start looking at and dealing with is education. I didn't say it like black lives don't matter when they're killed by police. Every life matters. But what I want us to start, what I would like to see us start identifying with is the fact of other little things that destroy us that we don't talk about. Because the reality of the day, most of the African Americans that get killed with those guns are people that are criminals. And had a long life of criminals. Does that diminish your life? No. But let's go back to what I was talking about. The number of people that catch felonies on nonviolent crimes. And their whole life is forever altered. Because if you get a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-old black male that has a possession with intent charge, now
done.
He's done.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know how that was because you worked Buckhead. Remember when a white kid in Buckhead gets arrested and before he even talks to the solicitor, they've already talked pretrial diversion. He's already entered into pretrial diversion. But when we lock up black kids, and one of the biggest things that happened to me, I can talk about it now, was I can remember when the first time the Braves won the pennant. And before they won, they sent Red Dog in and basically said, clean every swinging up around that. We don't want nobody to get robbed. This, this is going to represent Atlanta. We went out there and we policed and drinking in public, locking everybody up because we wanted Atlanta to look good. I got put in the wagon that night because when we went up to Buckhead, I'm not going to say the deputy's name because I really respect him, just that night, but a certain deputy chief got on top of a TARS and told us, I was in Red Dog, we got y'all up here for just looks. We just want y'all to stand around, don't do nothing. And while he said that, two white guys were walking down front past me in Buckhead. One of them turned up a Jack Daniels bottle. Now, Sykes, you know my personality. And my ass went to the wagon.
Straight to the wagon.
I slapped cuffs on it. They said, you didn't hear what a certain individual said? Because I respect him, man. I'm not going to say his name. And I said, yeah, I heard it. And I told his sergeant, are you telling me I can't lock this person up for drinking in public? And how many did we lock up on Capitol Avenue?
Wow.
And I locked that ass up. And that's one reason I probably never kept.
Lieutenant, you sliding away from that mic.
I'm sorry. And I locked the individual up for drinking in public because I was passing sensed because I didn't mind doing what I'm doing, but if it's a law in Zone 1, Zone 3, it's a law in Buckhead.
That's right.
And we were told not to enforce that night.
Lieutenant, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
During Freaknik, was it routine to lock people up for drinking in public?
I'd say with that, honestly, we were so outnumbered. I was there doing the
Hold on. Was it pushed? Was it like, we need to get these people off the street, let's make these arrests, if they're drinking in public, let's get them off the street?
It only happened when it got out of hand. And
now,
we were already, I'll say this.
Hold on, Lieutenant. Mm-hmm. They used to walk down the street drinking in public all the time at the Braves game.
Still do.
It was never frowned upon.
Now, I'll tell you this. I wasn't aware of that because if you remember Red Dog, I don't know how old you are, but if you remember the original Red Dog years.
I heard about them. I heard about them.
We didn't do any regular policing. So they basically took a street level narcotics team that Red Dog stands for Run Every Drug Deal out of Georgia. And they took a street level narcotics team and put them over there, and they say, hey, look, enforce every city ordinance. We want to make it clean so nobody's robbed, no cars are broken into, to put a black eye on the city of Atlanta doing the pennant.
Really?
That's what Red Dog stood for?
Yeah, that's what it stood for. Run Every Drug Deal out of Georgia.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, Chief Bell did that. Chief Bell did that. But Chief Bell, when this is what a lot of people don't understand, Chief Bell was probably the greatest chief I worked for. After that, Harvard.
Hey, man, that's dope.
But what a lot of people don't understand, Atlanta, gangs did not get a foothold in Atlanta to the 90s because of Chief Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't no play. We didn't allow that. No. Red Dog ruled the night.
Run every drug dealer out of Georgia. How about that?
Hey, caller, you got anything you want to close out with?
Offhand, I do not. I just want to say that I appreciate the opportunity and the opportunity to speak freely. And Lieutenant sounds like he's very well educated in law enforcement.
Oh yeah, he was that guy.
I would like to thank him. Say again.
I said, yeah, he was that guy.
Yeah, boy.
For real.
Hey, just glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Appreciate you calling in, man.
That's why I tagged you. I knew you was coming in. Appreciate you, boy.
I enjoyed listening. I could tell you're law enforcement as soon as you open your mouth. You knew too much.
They knew too much.
Hey, boy. Hey, man. The crazy thing is, I couldn't find you because I'd forgotten your last name. I was like, man, where is he at? I had to go back to some old stuff.
Really?
There you go. Yeah. Hey, man.
Really?
I've been living a long time. And as you can see, I don't know if you're looking, but you see this bottle sitting up here. Sometimes it dilutes my memory. That's all I can say. You my man, though.
Hey, next time I need to be up there. Was it next Tuesday night? I'll be up there next Tuesday night to get some of that.
There you go.
That's what's
there
up.
it is.
That's
There it
what's
is.
up,
Because,
yeah.
look, because we didn't get to talk about it tonight, but next weekend we're going to get into the Breonna Taylor thing. So, yeah, come on down, bro. Love to have
Yes,
you.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're going to see if we can get MJ back, too. You got any
Yeah.
closing remarks there?
No, I'll just say,
You know, I do not.
MJ?
like I said, what I'd like to see happen is that just because Biden took over, because Biden didn't change, it's like, but like I tell people, the only difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party is one of them will whisper in your ear when they doing you. That's about the only difference. And as a people, what we need to start looking at is being what's going to help African Americans, and quit trying to be kumbaya and everything else. We have a segment of our society that's been forgotten. Capitalist society, and you learn that in school, a capitalist society needs an underclass to exist.
Yes,
What's
sir.
happening in America is that African Americans have been made that permanent underclass. And if we don't wrestle that away from part of our community and start identifying and pointing out what's wrong in our own community and dealing with it, not just pointing out, but dealing with it and holding our leaders accountable, we're doomed. And I said, law enforcement, the changes we need to do is a national academy, make it recorded. All use of force complaints are on a national record. If you have an FBI, make it where it's nationally recorded so an officer can't be a gypsy and go from one department to another department to another department. I know some officers of the police in 4 and 5 departments. At some point, somebody needs to say, hey, this guy's not cut out for policing.
Right.
And have a national registry and change the law so in all 50 states, the law is the same. So you can't go be arrested in one state for doing something in another state would be legal. But if you have a national academy where everybody gets trained and the same SOPs are the same, and make, and this is something too in the soapbox, because I'm a supervisor, the body cams are the best thing that ever happened to law enforcement because it justifies a lot of what officers do. When you see the body cam, how many times in recent memory have you, like that one lady was showing out on, the black chick that was showing out on camera about the traffic ticket, and when you played the officer's body cam back, and everybody said at the same time, I would have locked her up. She lucky she only got a ticket. But the body cam saves officers. And if we start doing that litmus test, let's wait. Protest what needs to be protested. But what we need to protest is why African-American kids can't pass the same standardized tests that our kids and white kids pass. It's because the school systems are inferior. Why are they inferior? And deal with that issue. And you have a change, because if not, we're going to be the permanent underclass that fills up the multi-billion-dollar penal system in America. And until that's changed, it's not going to change. And that's what I meant. I hope I didn't offend anybody by saying those lives do matter. But what I'm saying, what we need to protest is when an African-American male smoking a blunt is taken out of a workforce. Because when you have that record, you're taken out. Or when you can look and clearly see that, start charting that in the courts, where start charting all courts where every stat has to be recorded in a national database. And you'll see where a white kid gets arrested for drinking in public in Buckhead and he's given pretrial diversion and it doesn't appear on his record. A black kid gets arrested for the same thing and has to sit in jail until he can make bond.
Right.
So if you're sitting there and you're given a choice between sitting there for months till your case comes around again, because you're only guaranteed what? That first appearance. After that, you sit in jail until your case comes around, or in the case of Fulton County, they have a federal mandate where they have to dump everybody on Fridays. You may sit in jail 5 or 6, 7 months until your case comes around. Who's going to do that and make a rational decision at 18 and 19? These kids are pleading out for non-violent felonies or a misdemeanor that takes them out of a rational child force. And until we identify that as a people, that's what we need to be crying about. That's what we need to be protesting about, are the number of young brothers whose lives are taken away before they start. I didn't mean to take over and talk a lot, but I'm passionate about this because I did this shit for 30 years.
Hey, man. Real stuff there, brother. I don't really have any closing remarks, man, outside of it. I mean, they said it all, you know what I mean? But I'm glad to hear what he said, what both of them said, because it kind of just verified things I've been
saying. I was going to say, but you could tell y'all know each other, because everything he just said, you've said a couple of weeks, going through. My closing remarks, man, I'm saying it in a different way, but we have to clean up our own backyard. In other words, we have to put the same energy towards the police shootings that we out there protesting about. You have to put the same energy towards our youth and our communities. Made a valid point when you talked about the parks and everything. Yeah, a lot of kids are inside because they're playing PlayStations and things of that nature. But at the same time, a lot of parents are not pushing them away from the PlayStation because they're scared of what might happen to them outside. So, yeah, we do need to start pushing for that. It comes down to what my partner here always saying, we got to vote, got to vote, got to vote. I know a lot of votes has already been put in. We passed that right at this moment, even though we do have another one coming up on January 5th. Make sure you get out there. But once it come up again, man, demand certain things from ask the right questions. Ask about your community and make sure that they're going to be held accountable if you vote for them to do things for your community. Again, like I said, I'm friends with a couple of guys on the force. And when I say about cleaning up our backyard, we have to stop blaming the police. We're blaming the police too much. We're putting too much on the police. Certain home training would keep the police from having to actually even act at all if certain people got certain home training or mentorship or anything like that. So I implore anybody out there that's doing things with kids, doing things with younger adults. I keep saying that we're talking about kids between the ages of 4 and 16. Well, we need to start talking to these kids that's between the ages, and I call them kids. I'm telling my age. I'm between 50 and 55. We need to start talking about the kids between the ages of 22 and 35. Because if you can reach them, they can reach the others, I promise you, because the others are probably following them anyway. So, we got to, January 5th, we got to get out there and vote for that. And also, again, clean up our own backyard, because what this show is a conversation, but it's mainly a conversation about us and moving us forward. If you're not about it, you ain't got to look at us. It's what it is. So I know you said you didn't have any closing remarks, but I know you got to talk about voting, dog. You got to.
No, I said a minute ago, but yeah, the voting's coming up, man, January 5th. Deadline to register is coming up soon, early December. They're going to start early voting soon, so 300,000 Georgians are not registered to vote. If you're not registered, shame on you, but time to fix it. I do want to shout out to folks who all tuned in tonight, folks who had comments, Jaron, John, Coach Les, Glenn, a few others I might forget, but appreciate everybody tuning in, man, chiming in on your comments. I read all of them. Some good stuff there, man. But yeah, register to vote, man. It's coming up soon.
And also, my guys that answered my questions by instant message, I got to one of y'all. I'm going to get to the other one on another show, I promise you, because you had some valid points. I didn't get to read it because I was driving down here, but me and Angelo read some of them. I promise you, man, you made some great points. We'll get to that.
We definitely got to expound on them, to be honest.
We're gonna get to the Breonna Taylor case next week.
MJ, can you come back next week?
I'll be.
I have a fresh bottle. I have a fresh bottle for you.
I'm gonna have that port. I'm gonna have that port down here.
We want to get some more in-depth conversation of the who, what, when, where, how. I mean, just and from a police perspective on some of the things that did happen, could have happened better, what have you.
Yeah,
So.
and again, what we're having conversations, people. So don't be scared to just give your opinion. That's what it's about. We need opinions. You never know. I think Tupac said it. Tupac said, "I may not change the world, but something that I say may actually spark the next mind to change the world." So if you have an opinion, whether you should think it's right if it's your opinion, give a call in and talk to us, that type of thing. But next week we'll be right back, and I promise you. Let me see next week. Thanksgiving. Yeah, next week we're gonna start on time. What do you say?
8:30 on the dot.
8.
I was here on time.
Yeah, you were.
All right, we changing our time, y'all. Instead of 8, it's going to be 8:30 next week. We're going to start on time next week, so y'all make sure that you tune in. We're going to get into the Breonna Taylor thing. And again, it's a conversation, so don't expect for us to only stay on that course, because it's a conversation. We may start talking about something else within it. But again, it's going to be our opinions. If you haven't looked at the specials, there's one on BET where it's the interview with her boyfriend. And then there's another one on 2020, which is more in depth with the actual I think it's one of the police officers that was involved, and also it's more in depth with some more of the politicians or whatever that's in Kentucky. So if you can take a look at that, call in next week, give us your opinion. So yeah, next week 8:30
on the dot.
8:30 next week, not 8. Because we ain't started at 8 number, I think twice. But 8:30 we're going to get going on it. So, yeah, that's Classic Conversations with JT and Low. Angelo and JT. J Boogie and Low Down. Me and him. We're out.